Putin nearly everything Putin wanted, and Trump got nothing. Today he meets with the Europeans and Ukrainian President Zelensky. We'll start today's show with you. What are your reactions to Putin's visit? Do you have any hope of an end to the Russian-Ukraine war, one that protects our allies and democracy? Call or text 877-301-8970.
And I'm Sue O'Connell in for Jim Browdy today. Then with ICE crackdowns, businesses are seeing workforce disruptions. We'll talk to Amherst College's Ilan Stavans about that, plus about a new study on how language barriers affect your internet experience. It's all ahead on the 11 o'clock hour on BPR, on GBH, and NEPM.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. European leaders are joining Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House today. They were left out of President Trump's meeting last Friday with Russian President Putin in Alaska. NPR's Lauren Freyer reports.
On the eve of this White House visit, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron chaired a virtual meeting of the so-called Coalition of the Willing. Afterward, they issued a statement saying they're ready to deploy multinational force Ukraine, what they call a reassurance force, to, quote, help secure Ukraine's skies and seas and regenerate Ukraine's armed forces, but only once hostilities cease. In their statement, Starmer and Macron say they reaffirm their support for Ukraine, praise Zelensky's desire for a just and lasting peace, and commend Trump's commitment to providing security guarantees to Ukraine. Lauren Freyer, NPR News, Glasgow.
President Trump says Hamas should be confronted and destroyed. Writing online today, Trump says that's the only way Israeli hostages will return. Trump says, quote, the sooner this takes place, the better the chances of success will be. More National Guard troops are coming to Washington, D.C. President Trump says they'll help stop crime, but federal data show violent crime in D.C. is at a 30-year low. Writing again online today, Trump wrongly claimed this data, prepared by the U.S. Justice Department, was put out by the city. Then Trump claimed the data was fake. He offered no evidence for that. Christina Henderson is a Washington, D.C. City Council member. She says the district has a long history of working with federal partners.
I would honestly welcome the conversation with the federal government about how we can better partner on some of these deployment and operations. If the goal is really about public safety, there are so many other things that we can be doing as opposed to just a visible deterrent.
She spoke to NPR's Morning Edition. It's been 2 years since the Food and Drug Administration approved the first over-the-counter birth control pill. People can buy this without a prescription. A new study shows this change has been effective in increasing access to contraception. NPR's Katie Riddle reports.
The study is from Oregon Health and Sciences University. It shows a nearly 32 percentage point increase in people who shifted to using the pill from no contraception at all. Dr. Maria Rodriguez is one of the lead authors.
I was super excited about them because it showed exactly what I thought and hoped we would see, which is that the over-the-counter pill is reaching individuals that have the greatest structural barriers to obtaining contraception from the health system.
It especially helps those who are uninsured and live in rural areas. Katie Riddle, NPR News.
On Wall Street, stocks are mixed. The Dow Jones Industrials are up about 25 points. The Nasdaq is down nearly 20. This is NPR.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. A federal appeals court in Boston has upheld the administrative leave and 4-day suspension of a veteran Cambridge cop got for a 2021 Facebook post in which he called George Floyd a career criminal, a thief, and druggie. Universal Hub reports the Friday ruling concluded that the Cambridge Police Department's need to maintain its public trust outweighed Officer Brian Hussey's First Amendment right to post his thoughts off-duty on his personal Facebook page. In its 2-1 ruling, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit dismissed Hussey's contentions that druggie is not a pejorative term and that in any case, no harm was done because he only posted to a page his friends could see, and then he deleted it a few hours later. The justices also dismissed Hussey's argument that he didn't believe Floyd deserved to die the way he did, which was being choked to death as a cop kneeled on his neck. Cable network MSNBC is rebranding to MS Now, an acronym that stands for My Source for News, Opinion, and the World. And network executives say they're also dropping the iconic peacock logo as part of the change. The rebrand, announced today as part of Comcast's efforts to separate the cable news channel from NBC News and its other assets as it works to spin off some of the other cable properties by the end of this year. In addition to MSNBC, some of those other properties that will spin off include CNBC, the Golf Channel, Golf Now, and Sports Engine. They will also drop the peacock logo. 67 degrees in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. RWJF is a national philanthropy working toward a future where health is no longer a privilege but a right. Learn more at rwjf.org.
Welcome to BPR and GBH and NEPM. I'm back from vacation. I'm Marjorie Yegan. I'm with media maven Sue O'Connell.
Back from the sick couch.
Yes. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you. There are, not every virus is COVID, Marjorie, or the flu. It's just a virus.
A virus.
I'm a little husky throated and a little Typhoid Mary coffee, but I'm not contagious and I feel great and I'm happy to be here for Jim.
Okay. All right, Typhoid. Thank you for coming in today. Okay. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, and we're back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow. Some programming notes. Michelle Wu will join us for another edition of Ask the Mayor. She'll be with us 12 to 1 on August 26th. And Josh Kraft, her opponent in the mayoral race, will be with us at noontime on August 27th. And thanks again for coming in despite your physical travails there, Sue O'Connell, media maven. Okay. We'll start the show with you. The latest on the U.S., Russia, and Ukraine situation. President Trump is, of course, hosting Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky at the White House today. They're having a meeting at 1:15. Long list of European leaders are in tow for Zelensky. I think this is to prevent this kind of debacle that we had last time around with everybody yelling at Zelensky. It's in stark contrast, of course, as we said, this one-on-one with the Trump that Trump had with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday in Alaska, where there was this really unusually warm reception, all the bombers flying overhead, the red carpet pulled out. Putin got all his photo ops, and he got his land promises. There were no sanctions, no ceasefire, no nothing really, and nothing for Ukraine. So what do you think about this? This was viewed, I think, as kind of a failure for the United States of America. But what do you think? 877-301-8970. You hopefully European leaders can keep today's meeting from totally derailing, like that February Oval Office spectacle with Vance, Trump, and Zelensky. And more broadly, beyond politics, is there a way to bring this war to an end that also protects our allies, protects democracy, and does not reward Russia and Vladimir Putin? The number is 877-301-8970 to call or text us, 877-301-8970. What'd you think, Sue?
Well, Marjorie, I tend to try and take a beat whenever evaluating international negotiations or historic negotiations. We may find out in 10 years something exceptionally great happened at that meeting in Alaska. And Trump, we may not. So I tend to be a little bit less quick on the jump about criticizing these sort of things, because as we have found out, the first lesson I got internationally about this was Jimmy Carter and the hostages and what actually happened versus what we thought happened, which we didn't find out for 10 years, that Jimmy Carter actually got them freed. That was what he was paying attention to. And then Ronald Reagan came in and it seemed like Reagan got them freed. So I'm always a little bit careful not to get over my skis. But having said that, the way that Putin was treated when he arrived in Alaska, which some Americans just found out is actually right next to Russia, and folks apparently need to apologize.
Well, he was happy he was in Alaska Alaska because he wants Alaska back, too.
He wants Alaska back, and a lot of people were saying in their classes in elementary school and high school they didn't realize it was so close, but that's a whole nother issue. Just treating him as if he's this conquering, returning hero, and then the sloppiness of the Trump administration leaving like the menu plans and the luncheon plans on the copy machine, which, the White House pushed back and said not a big deal. But if you're not paying attention to those details, what other details are you not paying attention to? And I'm really just kind of gearing up to have this showdown in the Oval Office again. I mean, what happened to Vladimir Zelensky the last time he was in the Oval Office was I think, a disgrace.
Right.
So I'm all ears, open-minded, love to hear what other people have to think about this, but I'm cautiously pessimistic. How's that for a view?
Our number is 877-301-8970. What did you think of the meeting between the two superpowers, Putin, head of Russia, and Trump, of course, head of the United States, on Friday? What'd you think of the rollout? I got to tell you, a lot of people followed the case of Alexei Navalny, just the latest of the opposition opponents to Vladimir Putin, that I think it's safe to say, I don't think he just keeled over in prison. I think he was
an enormous number of people in Russia fall out windows and mysteriously die at young ages. And they, I don't know if they've been vaccinated or not, because, if I were a vax conspiracy theorist, I would think that they were. But yes, an enormous number of people mysteriously die in Russia.
Or sometimes not so mysterious. Sometimes one of his political opponents is just shot in plain sight walking across a bridge in Moscow, or in case of Navalny, who stood up to Vladimir Putin and paid the ultimate price with his life, or the fact that the Russians stole children from Ukrainian families.
Kidnapped. Let's be clear. The Russians kidnapped children from Ukraine and are rehoming them and in Russia.
So we couldn't even get a concession in that regard. They've taken these children away from their family, kind of re-educating them. I mean, he's a war criminal, as we know. I mean, many people, he can't go to their countries because he might be arrested for he's wanted by the International Criminal Court. So he is a very, very bad guy. And I think it was very disheartening, at least to me and maybe to some of our listeners, to see him feted like he was the Pope, for God's sake, with the red carpet and get out well, I wouldn't think he'd have the bombers flying overhead for the Pope. Maybe you would. I don't know. But it was as if this was sort of some Super Bowl.
So, I mean, there's a difference between treating another world leader with respect and celebrating a world leader. Those are the two things I think that we have to keep in mind. I am all for treating other world leaders with respect. I'm not for celebrating people who are basically crime mob bosses, right? Russia is basically a criminal enterprise run by a crime boss. I mean, that's what my friends who are experts in this in Russia say, and they give me millions of examples. So I that's what brushed me the wrong way. And then, of course, you had Trump walking around saying that he would like to be treated the same way that the North Korean leader is treated and Russia is treated, which leads me to wonder, how are we going to be if we have to treat our leader like that?
And, one just last thing before we get to the calls, 877-301-8970. Given we mentioned this the kidnapping of the children situation, I mean, they're in tough shape over in Russia. Putin is in trouble, some trouble, as much as you can be when you're a dictator. I mean, Russian troops are dying in great numbers. The economy is a mess. The companies are facing bankruptcies because they got this hugely high interest rates over there. The Russians are sick of this, and further sanctions could have hurt them even more. And you recall the president insisting that there would be no very severe sanctions were a ceasefire not agreed to. Well, now he's redefining ceasefire. I think it's fairly safe to say that just like in Helsinki, Donald Trump got cowed and intimidated and blown apart in a figurative sense anyway by Vladimir Putin, and it was pretty embarrassing. But we'll see what other people think. 877-301-8970. Bob from Fall River, thank you for calling.
Oh, good morning, Marjorie. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, so let's get into it and see if it corrects itself,
okay.
Bob.
It only established the fact that Donald Trump, the monomaniacal,
I don't Bob, I don't think. Bob, I'm sorry. We're going to ask you to call right back because you're breaking up on us.
Or stay on hold and move
we'll
around.
See if we can do it.
Your house. I apologize. We just couldn't hear you.
We have a texter, Chris from Billerica. After Trump's royal treatment of Putin in Russia, I do not understand how anybody on the right cannot think that he's not a Russian asset or a complete traitor. I mean, there is, I did not witness this firsthand, and some of our colleagues in the international and national world were remarking about how different the Trump team was after engaging with Putin in Alaska. First of all, Putin got in the Beast, which is the limousine that the president sits in, and the idea of having this KGB world-renowned spy, criminal boss, get in the Beast with the president. And then when they got out of the car and then had their meeting, all the staffers, many of whom our colleagues in the national news business said looked ashen and looked afraid. So you can only wonder who Putin, who speaks very, 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 very good English and understands English almost perfectly, if not beyond that, what happened with Trump in the limousine, and how did we end up where we are?
I think the supposition, on Trump's part, the President Trump's part, was that his ability to cut a deal and cajole or intimidate or whatever was going to win Putin over. I mean, I think he had thought too much of his...
Because he can. I mean, the thing that I think we don't say enough is that Donald Trump is exceptionally successful. Right? Everything he says he's going to do, he has been able to do, in spite of all these things that he has either done to himself or have happened to him. And so the idea that he would walk into this negotiation and charm Putin and be a guy's guy with him and walk away with a deal, I'm sure that he's shocked that he doesn't have that. Let's go to...
well, hold on for a second.
Yeah.
He may have intimidated members of Congress who were only worried about being... But he has not managed to do this to Europeans, heads of other governments.
Well, some Europeans he has.
Well, do you think Keir Starmer is really charmed, or do you think he's just acting?
No, I'm sure he's acting, but this is what happens with Trump. You act, and then it becomes real. So it's sort of, it's the tough part.
I guess I see it a little differently than you, but that's okay.
Let's go to Kate.
Kate from Cambridge. Hi, Kate.
Hi. It looked exactly the way it was, which was Trump. Putin owns him. He's owned him before the election 2016. He got him elected. He's been grooming him for a long time in New York, when he had the bankruptcies, and they were money laundering through Deutsche Bank to prop him up because he was a person of influence. The Epstein thing, they're all lined up. The 2018 Helsinki, it's like, you call him successful. He's not successful. He's a con man. That's what he's successful at. He is a good con man. And what he's done is he's managed to calm like his election in the first place, going down the golden escalator, he paid those people to stand there. He paid people to not show all of the sex stuff he had.
Okay. Well, we don't know about the sex. If you're talking about the Steele dossier, I think that has not certainly been proven. But Kate, we get where you're coming from.
I think
you're not happy. Thank you for the call.
I think it's safe to say that when you stay in Russia, they're watching you. Every business person will tell you that they go, and Russia is a great espionage machine that they're able to do things. So the fact that they may have dirt on anyone at any time is a reality. But to the point, whatever happens, is there an ability to come out with peace that both sides at least can live with? And today, when Zelensky and the allied world leaders come to the White House without a red carpet, probably, and without a luncheon menu called His Excellency, will they be able to walk away with something that resembles peace?
Well, it's when you have the reports afterwards of what President Trump told Zelensky, that Putin was, quote, ready to promise, unquote, to end the war and not start wars against other countries. I mean, the fact that he would even say that, why should anybody think that any promise that Vladimir Putin makes holds any water whatsoever? And of course, what Putin wants from Zelensky's point of view is not just Donbass and the other, the whole country. And apparently he emphasized a lot to Trump their nuclear power, that Trump should be grateful that we're not, he's not blowing everything up in Ukraine because he certainly could, which is true. But that seems to get. I mean, I think a lot less of Trump than you do. I don't see him as a very successful guy.
But how can he not be successful? He has been a historic president who has won 2 terms, not in a row, over incredible odds of being criminally indicted. He would be in jail otherwise. He had the entire party who was against him, and now they're for him. I mean, I think it downplays his power by not acknowledging that he has been successful. I mean...
Okay, I would just differ in my definition of successful.
Doesn't mean positive.
Yeah, okay, there's a difference. There's a difference. I don't think taking away people's food is very successful.
At it.
Well, is that success, or is that just wielding your power in a way? I mean, do we want to call people that do horrible things successful? I don't know.
Well, his term isn't over yet, Marjorie. There's still plenty to do.
No, he's going to turn around, Sue, and he's going to turn into Goldilocks.
That's absolutely
Any day
true.
now. Okay. 87. Oh, somebody's complaining that Jim is not on the air now. He's been off for a week.
Vacation again.
He's getting 2 weeks vacation.
Yeah.
I don't think that's unreasonable. I had 2 weeks vacation. Jim has a 2 weeks vacation.
Yeah, I always love it when people on Twitter are like adding me on Sunday and saying, "Why aren't you responding to this?" Because it's Sunday and this is not an OnlyFans page, okay? If you want a bespoke opinion, you have to pay for it. That's how I look at it.
So our number is 877-301-8970. We're asking how you feel about what happened on Friday and what could happen today. I mean, there is hope that, 10 more people, including 2 children, have died since this discussion on Friday in Ukraine. Maybe they can get closer to a ceasefire. Now, Trump's idea is we can't talk about a ceasefire until we have a peace plan.
Well, the thing about Trump, though, which has always been true, is he listens to the last person and the last thing he heard, and that's what he goes in with. So at the end of the meeting today, if it goes well, he'll come out with a new plan. Whether or not that works for Putin or for Zelensky will be up in the air. But the reality, the other thing that drove me crazy was when Putin said that if Biden had been president, right? What did he say? Biden, if
this war would never have happened?
The war wouldn't have happened.
Putin never would have invaded?
Right. And the reason is probably because he would have gotten what he wanted from Trump without having to go to war, right? That's the part that I think everyone keeps missing. And there's something about Trump which I find absolutely fascinating, considering what we know about him and how he talks about other things. He hates war. He talks about all the time about the human cost of war. And that's why you see him flip-flopping, and I don't mean it in a really derogatory way, but, whether he is upset with Israel or upset with Hamas or upset with Russia or upset with Ukraine, it's always based on the latest numbers of what horror war is bringing. Now, that might be the only optimistic and positive aspect he has, but as president of the United States, wanting to avoid war at all costs is not necessarily the best strategic point of view.
Yeah.
So you hear him talk a lot about how many people have died, what the cost of war is, but, is he able to actually turn that into a way that ends this war with Russia being appeased to some degree that they don't keep land and Ukraine being able to get back. And again, Russia kidnapped children from Ukraine. We should not let that go.
But we should point out that he's not so upset about war that he's not going on with Benjamin Netanyahu and what's going on in Gaza.
Well, he has.
Well,
but last week. But again, like I said, who talked to him last?
We're still giving him weapons.
Right.
We've not really stopped our support of Netanyahu. But anyway, Lynn in Brookline, thank you for calling.
Hi, first-time caller, actually.
Welcome.
So just a couple of things. Number one, those were my taxpayer dollars that were used for pomp and circumstance for a man who is a war criminal and shouldn't be given 1 ounce of a moment from our president, who is being traitorous. And I believe he's been a traitor, honestly, since the day he came down that escalator. There is no concessions that Zelensky, in my mind, should make. It's their country. Putin's invaded. Nothing should be given away. This man should just be, not given any time of day at all because of it. And the fact that we've got spineless Congress people who continue to support this man who is destroying our country and everything that has been built around our country that's good, and that people still are not seeing that, so many of his base are not speaking out about it. It's shameful. It's beyond horrific, and I wish people would wake up.
Lynn, did you ever think you would see the Republican Party becoming the party of Russia? Lynn?
No, but many years ago, when Trump was first term, during our July 4th holiday, there were many Republican, I don't remember if it was senators or congressmen, who were taking a trip to Russia. I found that absolutely the most appalling thing that I had heard. And I think all those things have been seeded. And the fact that, people talk about Trump being a con man. He is. He's great at it. And the Project 2025, which has been in the making for over 40 years, they found a mouthpiece. And they found a con man who could work all this stuff for them. And now it's the perfect storm for all of them. And we need to wake up. We need to wake up.
All right, Lynn, thanks for your call.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the call. We are talking about the meeting today that's happening at 1:15 between Trump, Zelensky, and there will also be some European leaders there with Zelensky, and of course, Trump's people will be with him. It's going to happen at 1:15, and people's reaction to the last Friday, the meeting between Trump and Zelensky, and the tarmac welcome with the red carpet and the fighter jets over the through the skies, and whether they are happy. Well, I don't know if it's who could be happy about it. They really didn't get anywhere. But what do they think about what happened between Trump and Zelensky? You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting. No, we're not broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. We're doing that tomorrow, Sue. Is that correct?
Yep. After the quick break, we're going to take more of your calls and texts. I'm Sue O'Connell. I'm sitting in for Jim Browdy. She, of course, is Marjorie Egan. And you are listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM and streaming on youtube.com/GBH News.
Next time on The World, a popular journalist in Turkey has been putting out stories on YouTube.
Oradaki zaten bu şaşırtıcı bir şeydi. Yani biraz izanı ve biraz vicdan olan.
Now he's sitting in a Turkish jail charged with insulting President Erdogan. That's next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And MIT Sloan Executive Education. You can equip yourself with the skills to lead in a rapidly changing world. Courses cover AI, leadership, and data-driven strategy. More at executive.mit.edu. And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds from utility bills, uncashed paychecks, savings accounts, and more. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Sue O'Connell is in for Jim Browdy. If you're just tuning in, we're taking your calls on Trump, Zelensky, and Putin and the issue of Russia's war against Ukraine. Our number is 877-301-8970. I wanted to mention we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. It's going to be the Boston Public Library tomorrow. I got my text messages. Jamie just came in and fixed my text messages.
She's good now.
Yeah. This is a good one. If Trump wants a Nobel Peace Prize, and apparently he does, he called up the Norwegians asking them for how they could help him. If Trump wants a Nobel Peace Prize, he should have just arrested Vladimir Putin when he got to Alaska. That's from Deb in Fairhaven. That's pretty good.
That would work. We're getting a couple of texters who are saying, why aren't you being more positive and more open-minded? Listen, I am completely open-minded. That's what I said.
You're more open-minded than I am.
If we were able to find peace here, with both sides being, satisfied, for lack of a better word, with the outcome, I'd give Donald Trump all the awards in the world. That's great. It's just very concerning that, Putin is treated the way that he is, and Zelensky and our European allies are being treated the way that they are. It does not give me hope to think that we are going to listen to the people who are actually involved in this and see what Russia wants to do, which is pretty clear.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Ukrainian people obviously were devastated because they were, I'm sure, hoping for a ceasefire and hoping that that there would be some agreement on that. And, of course, the fighting resumed. Here's Adam from New Hampshire. I'm no fan of Trump. It seems that the left-leaning media, yes, this includes NPR, is looking for any reason to call him a failure on this issue. How exactly do you want him to treat Putin? It doesn't seem like a good idea to go around punching him in the face.
No, but you could treat him with respect without celebrating him. That there's a difference. We do it all the time. We didn't invent this.
But, Adam, the thing is that Putin, in some ways, despite his power and his oligarchy and his money and his efforts to kill anybody that's an opponent of his, is in a weak situation because all these Russian soldiers are dying. People are getting very upset. The economy's in very bad shape. We all already have sanctions over there. It would have been a nice thing, perhaps, to impose more sanctions and make his life a little more difficult.
I mean, you could make the argument they shouldn't have had the meeting at all. He should never have come to the United States. It should never have happened, although I don't think Trump really knew he was in the United States because he kept saying he wanted to go back to the United States, even though they were in Alaska. I don't want to nitpick. I don't want to nitpick here, but they did leave stuff on the copier, and Trump didn't know where he was. But I don't think Putin. I mean, that's the point. Like, we're treating him as an established good leader when he is not.
That's right. For listeners who are still confused about Alaska's proximity, our staff has found sound of former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin laying it out.
They're our next door neighbors, and you can actually see Russia from land here in Alaska.
It's actually we owe Sarah an apology because I had no idea how many people in the United States did not know how close Alaska basically.
I can see Russia from my house.
Tina Fey, ladies and gentlemen, there she is. Yeah, it's yeah.
Okay, let's go to Lou in Leominster. Thanks for calling.
How you doing?
Fine, thanks.
All I wanted to say is that you're not going to get any negotiations in favor of Russia from a big blowhard comment like Trump. It was very clear. Putin gave a message right away when he had his ambassador come with a big T-shirt that said CCCP, which means USSR, which is what Trump's intentions are, what Putin's intentions are.
That's a great point, Lou, and I probably should have said it earlier. The idea that he has taken a front ever since the Soviet Union was diminished and turned over some of its territories, and he wants to establish his former glory, and he sees Ukraine as a step in that direction.
Yeah, and Chechnya. I mean, this is what they want to do: is reunify the Soviet Union, whether these countries that are now sovereign nations want it or not, and they're going to just keep doing it. And again, if we come out of anything with a peace agreement that works for people, great. Give Trump all the awards in the world, but you've got Trump who keeps changing his mind based on what he just heard, and Putin. Great.
Yeah. And Zelensky has said in the past, and he's continued to say, he doesn't want to give up any territory. But you do wonder if he's going to end up having to give up some territory to get some kind of
And I really love Putin lecturing us on the integrity of our mail-in ballots and how, United States, which, still has the safest and best election system in the world, and Putin, who just keeps amazingly getting reelected,
Isn't it like 96% of the voters?
Yeah, just lecturing us on our election safety. Thank you, Vlad. Really appreciate it. Let's go to Jenny in Providence. Hey, Jenny, welcome to GBH BPR.
Good afternoon. I'm interested that some of the callers are talking about motivation. I initially called because I feel like Trump is motivate
Jenny, I'm sorry. We're going to have, I think it's that line. We're going to put you on hold for a second, Jenny, and we're going to see if we can clear you up. Sorry about that. I think we're having a problem with line 1. I think it's line 1.
Read this anonymous texter.
Yeah.
Putin showed Trump the Epstein files in the limo.
I mean, seriously, do you not think that Russia doesn't have the Epstein files? I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
Think about it. I have no doubt that there is a treasure trove of all sorts of materials on everybody. And this is not just about Trump. This is about everybody. And it cracks me up that we keep acting like, Vladimir Putin is just this guy who needs a translator and doesn't know what's going on. And he knows what's going on. He does more surveillance than Facebook does. Let's just say
you think about the training you have as a KGB agent to try to gain people's trust and then screw them, or how to read people's motivations. I mean, this is what he's done in his career, and it's served him fairly well.
So our team is working to fix our phone lines. It might be more than one. They're working on it. So at the moment, they're asking if you could just open your windows and yell at us, and we will hear you from them, and we'll get to that. And we're working to, the phone and radio to the original broadcast things. Always a challenge, though, Marjorie.
Lots of people are calling President Trump. They're comparing him to Neville Chamberlain. He was an apologist, people may know, before World War II.
That's all the time we have right now. Stay with us. We're going to fix those call lines and those text lines. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, Amherst College professor Ilan Stavans zooms in to chat with us. I'm Sue O'Connell. I'm in for Jim Browdy, who is on an unbelievable amount of vacation.
It's really outrageous.
It's really outrageous.
I know. We should talk to Human Resources about that.
She is Marjorie Egan. She's filing a complaint as we speak. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM, and we are streaming, of course, on youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, defying gravity with renowned glass artist Josh Simpson and his wife, retired astronaut Katie Coleman. Plus writer Imani Perry. In her new book, she traces how the concept of blackness has been intertwined with another color, blue. From the dyed indigo cloths of West Africa to American blues music. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the Boston Speakers Series, continuing its season at Symphony Hall with 7 evenings, including Dr. Anthony Fauci, Ken Burns, Outliers author Malcolm Gladwell, and geopolitical economist Pippa Malmgren. BostonSpeakers.org. And the Cape Cod Foundation, committed to building resources to support community life on Cape Cod, including environmental conservation, arts and culture, and community development. Learn more at capecodfoundation.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. I'm Marjorie Egan with news influencer.
That's me.
Sue O'Connell, who's in for Jim Browdy, who's taking much too much vacation time. Absolutely. I'm bothering complaint. Okay. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow, Wednesday, and Friday. But right now we are joined on Zoom by Ilan Stavans, professor of humanities and Latin American and Latino culture at Amherst College. He has a new book. This is one prolific guy. He's got a new book out next month called Conversations on Dictionaries, the Universe in a Book. He's also the publisher of Restless Books, an independent nonprofit publisher. Thank you so much for joining us again, Ilan. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Enjoying it.
Good to see you. Thanks for listening through all of our imaginations about it. Yes. So, Ilan, I live in Roxbury, and my neighborhood is Jamaica Plain, the Latin quarter of Center Street. And that's where I do all my business, where my laundromat is, my supermarket, my drugstore. And all year long, businesses have been telling me how, especially the laundromat, they are being killed. There's nobody in there. It is adjacent to a housing development where a lot of folks live as well who are immigrants, both here legally and undocumented. We've had ICE raids in the liquor store, that is the Packy, as we like to say. And all of the businesses are concerned about their well-being, being able to continue to operate. Yesterday was the Dominican Republic Day, the DR parade. I was there for a while. It was, I dare say, a ghost town. There were not, usually the streets are lined with folks. It was not that busy. We're basically experiencing a culture of fear for citizens, people here legally, and everyone else. Is that what your experience is telling you as well? Is my anecdotal experience transferable?
Absolutely, Sue. It's a culture of fear. It's a culture of repression. It's a culture of disappearances. It reminds me of the dirty war in Argentina, where those that did not fit into the parameters of the military junta would suddenly vanish. It reminds me of moments in the Second World War in the Polish ghettos and in different parts of Germany. The big challenge here is separating what ICE is doing against the so-called illegal or undocumented immigrants and the war that many of us Latinos feel that is being exercised against Latino culture, against the Spanish language, against the diversity of Latinos coming from different parts of Latin America. I understand that the vision of Trump is to bring back some kind of order into the immigration debate. But this is going way beyond. This is establishing a vision that those that speak Spanish, those that belong to a particular background are dangerous. And as a result, many are afraid of leaving home or of opening businesses, of having parties, of driving a car and and listening to the Spanish language radio, because that would be a way to tell ICE that they are from that culture that is under suspicion.
Yeah, you read all these, similar to what you just talked about, Sue, the DR parade, Dominican Republic parade. You read about this happening all over the country, that people are just hunkering down, even if they're here legally.
Absolutely, Marjorie. It's happening in Texas, it's happening in California, in New York, all over the country. People are afraid of trying to get their jobs, into their jobs, those that are documented and those that are undocumented. And I feel that there is a long-standing backlash against Latino culture here that will live in the memory of the next generation for a long, long time. Eventually, they will grow up, and the ghosts, the fears that we're talking about, will see themselves projected in a variety of ways. It's a very traumatic moment, particularly for the next generation.
And the other part of that, I hadn't thought of it that way, Ilan, because in my world, my daughter just turned 25, and I just finished, I hope, watching all the Disney channels, all the all the movies, which are great, and it's all great. But the expansion of the Latino and Hispanic culture through Disney with all sorts of characters and fictionalized characters, live action TV shows like The Wizard of Waverly Place, right, or the animated things. I work at NBC, so Telemundo is a huge part. I work all day long with my Hispanic and Latino colleagues. And on a regular basis, I think, oh gosh, this is great. We're here. And I hadn't even thought about how a government crackdown, even if this is a short-term 3-year situation, could hurt those young people who have been told how great as they should be, how great their culture is. And now the government is saying, hide it.
This is a country that has approximately 1 out of every 5 people that are of Latino background. Spanish is the unofficial second language of this country, either we want it or not. It has been from even before the independence in the Southwest, in other parts of the country. And the fact that this war on Latino culture is being exercised the way it is really puts a big dent on a large portion of this country. There are nowhere in the world so many Latinos live together. Nowhere in the world has Latino culture expanded in the way that you were just describing, the 80s, the 90s, the beginning, the 2 decades of this 21st century have seen an astonishing enlargement of Latina culture, which is a welcome transformation of this country. It is a fair and balancing act. But I think that the second Trump administration is creating that fear in establishing a schism that will leave as a wound in many Latinos for a long time.
Yeah, you've mentioned this twice now. When you say leave a wound or affect them going forward, what do you mean? Not wanting to be here or living their lives differently? Long term, what do you mean?
Marjorie, families being pulled apart, parents being sent back, friendships being broken, Latinos hiding their identity in schools where majorities are not Latinos because they are afraid of being called up or being singled out. There is the fear of the authorities. There is the fear of announcing that you're proud to be a Spanish speaker or proud to be a Dominican, a Colombian, a Mexican, a Puerto Rican, you name it. It's astonishingly frightening and anxiety producing.
Ilan, I mentioned it a little bit about the economic challenge, and I'm going to tell you another anecdotal episode from my life over the summer.
You've had a busy week over the week.
Very busy. But I was up in Camden, Maine a couple of weeks ago, and very, very white, very affluent, big vacation spot. Beside the fact there were no Canadians, which suddenly everybody realizes we need Canadians, and the Canadians were not in Camden, Maine. The stores that are usually open 7 days a week were open 5 days a week. Stores that might be open from 10 to 8 were open 11 to 5 and closing for an hour for lunch during the week. And this is July and August in Camden, Maine. Yeah. But I talked to a couple that own their own farm at a farmer's market, and the couple looked like the Walking Dead to me. They look so tired, so terrible. And she went to make change for something I bought, and she said, "I'm brain dead. I'm sorry. I can't figure out how much to pay. I've been up since 3. This is a Tuesday. I worked in the fields. I picked everything so it wouldn't die. And then we have to come to this Tuesday farmer's market to sell it, because if we don't, it will be all over." And I was like, this is an American horror story, and it's self-inflicted. We don't have Canadians buying stuff. We don't have migrants here working in the fields in Maine, which we need. This is my anecdotal vacation story. Is it replicable across the country?
It's more than replicable. It is decisive and defining. So the fact is that the American dream, if there is such a thing still today, is made of those that are willing to do menial jobs or difficult jobs on the field, in the cities, that eventually put all that energy and time because they want their children to have a better life than they do. And the result right now of the ICE roundouts and of the atmosphere of fear is that many people either have been deported or are not showing up for work. And they're not showing up not because they don't want to work, but because they fear that if they do, they will be sent to the other side. And as a result, there are businesses that are about to crash. Many small businesses are in dire situations because of the very limited labor availability in construction, on the fields. The impact is being felt massively. It seems that the Trump administration is listening and is wanting to look for help for farmers in different parts of the country. We will see exactly what that help will be. But the Latino community, and there's something else that I think is very important. We witnessed in the past 2 decades a move from the lower or working class by Latinos into the middle class. Right. We're finally seeing an expansion of the middle class, which is, again, the American dream. And now it's being interrupted. It's being cut in the middle. It is atrocious. It's very painful.
Well, here's some numbers provided to us by Katie Johnson in the Globe. She talked about the deportation impacting Massachusetts workforce. 80 immigrant workers fired at Logan Airport. 50 foreign-born Market Basket employees fired. Painters, roofers, drywallers arrested. Healthcare researchers, pizza makers, hardwood floor installers thrown into detention. 20% of the country's labor force is made up of immigrants. 5% are undocumented. And around, she talks about how half of Greater Boston's housekeepers, janitors, painters, taxi drivers, nursing assistants, and cooks are born in another country. So, I've heard stories about nannies not coming to work anymore, because when you go to a playground, Jamaica Plain or anywhere in Boston, or at the Boston Public Library, you see nannies come in all the time with little kids. They are not Americans. The nannies that are there, they're speaking Spanish.
But Marjorie, I want to humanize this population too. Yes, they are not showing up at Logan and as nannies, but these are people that eat every day and dream and fall in love and want their children to evolve. These are people with a heart and with a mind who might be for temporarily menial workers or nannies, but eventually their children will become Supreme Court justices or professors or people having shows like you. This is what is being interrupted. Let's see the humanity of this labor force that is being disappeared in front of our eyes.
Well, what do you think? You mentioned that we have a really huge Latino middle class now in the United States of America,
Absolutely.
people that have done extremely well. Trump got a lot of votes from Latino. Was it part of the "I'm not going to be in trouble here" thinking, or "I'm here"? I mean, what was that?
There are about 65 million Latinos in the United States. 65 million is more Latinos in this country than Canadians have in total, than most Latin American countries have in total too. 65 is a huge number.
Yeah.
And in 65, you will have very conservative and very liberal, very young and very old. The fact is that many Latinos, particularly Puerto Ricans and Mexicans, used to lean Democrat, and in the last election have been leaning Republican. They are disappointed with the Democratic Party. Trump, with his manhood, with his macho style. Remember, many Latinos come from countries with very strong leaders, very tyrannical at times leaders. So there's a kind of a longing for or nostalgia for what was left behind, but within the American dream. It is a fascinatingly complex community. It is anything but unified and homogeneous, and it needs to be seen in all its complexities.
One of my mother's greatest heartbreaks was she sponsored a neighbor who became her best friend, who actually had rode over from Cuba in the 60s, went through the entire process with him, and when he became a citizen, he registered to vote as a Republican. And my mother... This is in the 60s and 70s, a very different time, but my mother would often, they'd joke at cookouts, I didn't bring you to this country to, which she didn't, but to register as a Republican. But it was always very illuminating to me that you don't put people in boxes, because everyone's experience, he thought that we could do it right in America, what his beliefs were. So,
and within the same family, Sue, within the same family, you will have the father who has one political persuasion and the mother who moves in the different direction, and the kids are trying to figure out who they are. A typical American family.
That's right. That's why Thanksgivings are so fraught with tension now. We're all, you have to.
They're always fraught. They're always fraught.
Imagine.
Yeah. So you were mentioning before, Ilan Stavans, about the Trump administration seeming to be on a campaign to eradicate Spanish culture. But it does seem that ICE employees, it might be useful for them to learn Spanish, but they're
couple of words.
Yeah, but they're getting rid of that requirement.
This is a fascinating story, Marjorie. You would think that with the day-to-day interaction that ICE agents have to have with Spanish speakers, that they would be trained maybe an hour, maybe a day, hopefully a week, and get a little bit of Spanish, but that would mean that you're going on the Darth Vader side. You are embracing the Spanish language. And as a result, ICE has eliminated any direct one-on-one efforts to train in Spanish. And they are using AI. Now the default approach is just give it to AI. Everybody will learn very quickly from AI. So even those that are dealing day in and day out with Spanish speakers that need translation, that need interaction, are being asked not to think of Spanish as a true language of communication, as a language that has its own beauty, its own rhythms, and instead defaulting to AI, thinking that English is the only approach to these individuals. And I fear that the interaction with those that are undocumented is as a result made of silences and of misunderstandings when it could be humane. It could be humane. Many of the things that are happening right now could be done with a more human heart.
I think if you just take the standpoint that you are against illegal immigration and you want people who are here undocumented not to be here, just start there. What is the best way to do it? The ICE has $175 million they just got. You think they might be more efficient if they could speak some Spanish, so they're only really stopping the people that they're supposed to stop instead of the people that they're not supposed to stop. But when people say, well, politics gets into everything, this is an example of that, because Spanish would be a good tool. Even if you agree with what Trump's doing, they're not allowing them to learn Spanish on the company dime because it sends a bad message. And this is the cuckoo-ness of the entire thing.
This is the cuckoo-ness indeed. And then in the Alaska summit between Putin and Trump, everybody was very happy because Putin at the very end said a few words in English. Trump would never say a few words in Russian. I don't think he would know any words in any foreign language. But the fact that
taco,
Putin said,
he knows
next
taco.
time, taco maybe, or
burrito.
Hammock. That was a big cultural moment.
Yeah, well, remember we made fun of John Kerry because he spoke French. Do you remember that when he was running for president? He speaks fluent French, a former senator, and people in the Republican Party mocked him because he could speak a foreign language. And then whenever we just leave our country, we're always embarrassed that we can't speak anything. So there you go.
Exactly.
So tell us, you got a new book coming out in just a month. You just did this beautiful poetry book. What are you doing in this new book?
This new book, Marjorie, I'm so excited about. It's called, as you mentioned, Conversations on Dictionaries. The subtitle is The Universe in a Book. And I speak in the book with the 22 top dictionary makers of 22 different languages: Japanese, German, French, Hebrew, Yiddish, Italian. And they all tell me how the dictionaries play out in their countries, how they got to take shape, and in what way the dictionary keeps the feeling of nationalism or nationality in the country. It's been a fascinating project in many languages. And then at the very end of the book, Marjorie, there's a short story based on a true fact of a philanthropist who invited me once. He still is asking me to do a dictionary of dictionaries, a dictionary that would have all the dictionaries included in it from the beginning of time to the present.
Oh, my God.
What a crazy idea.
Oh, my God. Well, right? We have to update. We always hear the new words in the Merriam-Webster all the time, right?
So I guess language is a living being, right?
Yeah.
Language
Absolutely.
changes and
and
evolves.
Dictionaries try to corral it and try to show us that this is our museum of language, and this is also the granary from which we eat.
So we only have like a minute left, but does that have anything to do with the story about language hiding the real internet from you? Is this about a confusion of words, or what is that about? We only have a minute.
That story is fascinating. We often think, Marjorie, that the internet is the freest space where we can access anything we want. In fact, because of a algorithm, what you see is very different to what I see, and we are all living within the internet in different silos, speaking the language only that is catered for us. So it is time to begin seeing the internet not as a trampoline to jump into other areas, but a kind of prison also of language and of knowledge. I think it's a different approach, and it's worth exploring fully.
Well, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, because we are looking at something and we're getting the internet's opinion of what that something is. Is that what you mean?
And because whatever you are getting is tailored through algorithms to the type of ads
telling you what you want to know,
the type of pages you go to. So it's always feeding you what you want to be fed with.
All right, Ilan Stavans, thanks so much for joining us. Always a pleasure to speak with you. Congratulations
on the new book, and we'll talk about that when it's actually a month from now, right? A month from now.
A month from now.
Great.
Thank
Congrats.
you both.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Ilan Stavans is the professor of humanities and Latin American and Latino culture at Amherst College and the publisher of Restless Books and Amherst. Professor, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to continue. We're saying goodbye to NEPM right now, but stay tuned for the fabulous 413 starting at 3 this afternoon. The show continues here in Boston. After the noon news, we're going to have Boston Globe critic Odie Henderson and former Labor Secretary Robert Reich. I'm Sue O'Connell. She's Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR on GBH, NEPM, and of course we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio with Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan. Just ahead, more smart conversation about what's going on in our community. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865. In Brooklyn, as rents and sea levels rise, a new development fractures the community and forces it to confront the future of New York City's last industrial waterfront. Watch POV, Emergent City, tonight at 10 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Marjorie Egan. Ahead on hour number 2 at BPR. Well, it feels like October out there. It's still August and still summer movie season. Boston Globe film critic Odi Henderson is back with his unabashed reviews of new summer flicks, including the Freakier Friday sequel and some Disney reboots.
I'm Sue O'Connell, in for Jim Braude. Then, for more than 40 years, former Labor Secretary Robert Reich has been sounding the alarm on rising inequality in America and how to fix it. He's out with a new memoir, coming up short, a memoir of my America, and he joins us. All that, plus our venerated Two More Things segment, next on the noon hour of BPR on 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. European and NATO leaders are expected to join Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House today. They're arriving this hour ahead of Zelensky. It's unclear if any of them will be in the room when the Ukrainian leader meets with President Trump. NPR's Franco Ordonez reports.
Trump is expected to lean on Ukraine to take a deal with Russia that involves giving up territory, but will also likely dangle U.S. security guarantees to prevent another invasion. Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, said on CNN's State of the Union that the security guarantees are, quote, game-changing.
We were able to win the following concession, that the United States could offer Article 5-like protection.
He's referring to Article 5 of the NATO treaty, which says that an attack against one of its members is considered an attack on all. Franco Ordonez, NPR News.
Democratic state lawmakers in Texas have ended their 2-week walkout over state Republicans and President Trump's plan to gain 5 new GOP congressional seats through a redrawn map mid-decade. They say the 2 conditions for their return have been met. The first special session ended Friday, and California's introduced a map to redistrict its congressional seats. NPR's Bobby Allen has more on California Governor Gavin Newsom's response.
Newsom is backing a plan heading toward California voters in November that could shake up the state's political landscape. The governor says there will be a special election on November 4th to ask voters' approval of redrawing the state's congressional districts to give Democrats 5 more seats in the House. The controversial push is an attempt to counter Texas's own plan to redraw districts to give Republicans more seats. It's high-stakes partisan maneuvering that could determine who controls the House after the 2026 midterms. But the effort in California is drawing loud criticism, including from former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is rallying around the phrase, terminate gerrymandering. Bobby Allen, NPR News.
Several big retailers will be talking this week about their sales and profits for the most recent quarter. NPR's Scott Horsley reports the news could carry a signal about the strength of consumer spending, which is the biggest driver of the U.S. economy.
Walmart, Home Depot, and Target stores all report their quarterly earnings this week. Investors will be listening for clues about how shoppers are spending money and possible price hikes. Wholesale prices jumped more than expected last month. Retail sales rose by 0.5%. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell speaks on Friday at the annual Jackson Hole Conference of economists and central bankers. The Fed's nearly finished with its long-range policy review, which it does once every 5 years. Back in 2020, the central bank said it would not raise interest rates preemptively just because of a tight job market. But after several years of inflation that's above target, the Fed's strategy could shift to underscore the importance of stable prices. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
This is NPR.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren says President Trump's failure to bring down prices on goods and services will make affordability a key campaign issue in the 2026 midterms. Speaking with WBZ's John Keller yesterday, Warren said the cost of housing is up, the cost of health care is up, the cost of groceries up, and the cost of utilities is up. She adds that Donald Trump not only hasn't delivered on campaign promises to lower costs, but what we're seeing is that costs are, in fact, up. Meanwhile, the New York Times reports that one gauge of inflation showed prices increasing at their fastest rate in 5 months in July, and that's an early sign that businesses are starting to pass tariff-related costs on to consumers. Well, it was on this date, August 18th, 1967. 58 years ago, that Revere native and Red Sox rising star Tony Conigliaro was hit in the eye by a fastball from Angels pitcher Jack Hamilton. That game was at Fenway Park. Conigliaro suffered a dislocated jaw, broken cheekbone, and damaged retina. Ended up missing the rest of the 67 season and all of the 68 season as well. In 1969, Tony Conigliaro made a comeback and got to play for the Sox again, but this time it was alongside his brother Billy. Problem was, Tony's eyesight was permanently damaged and he was never the same on the plate and on the field as well. Tony C. was traded to the Angels in 70. He retired a year later, died of kidney failure in 1990 at the age of 45. We're thinking of Tony Conigliaro today. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include BetterHelp, committed to supporting mental health through therapy. Clients are matched with one of 30,000 therapists and can communicate via video, chat, or phone at betterhelp.com/public.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Sue O'Connell is in for Jim Browdy, who is on vacation. She is our news influencer and our media maven, our local woman. She's plays many roles here at BPR. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Going to be back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow, Wednesday, and Friday. Michelle Wu, the mayor, will be with us on August 26th from noon to 1. And Josh Kraft, her opponent in the mayoral race, will be with us the next day, August 27th at noon, if you want to stop by the Boston Public Library and see both of them in action. Thanks, Sue, for coming in for Jim. Okay. Despite the fact that it feels like October out there, it is still August, which means there is still summer movie season in full glory. We are joined now via Zoom by Odi Henderson. Odi reviews movies for the Boston Globe. He's also the author of Black Caesars and Foxy Cleopatras, a history of blaxploitation cinema. Hi, Odi. Thanks for taking the time to join us. Appreciate it.
Hi. Thanks for having me on, as always.
Great seeing you. So, Odie, I'm going to start with another one of my famous anecdotes that I've been doing all show. The highlight of my emerging influencer career, which started in January.
She's a big influencer.
Why be on time, right? Show up and see how it's going to work out. Spike Lee liked one of my Instagram stories. So I don't want to brag, I don't want to boast, but I do like hot butter on my breakfast. So anyway, we're having a Spike Lee moment right now and a Denzel Washington moment. And for many people, I always think it's funny if folks are just kind of casual observers of the film world and film culture, and then suddenly you say to them, here is this relationship which has been fueled over decades, and we're talking about it now. Talk about how Spike Lee and Denzel Washington as collaborators and what they're doing now, and just illuminate folks who may not have really been paying attention.
Well, Spike Denzel is to Spike what what Robert De Niro is to Martin Scorsese, and now Leonardo DiCaprio also. Is an actor who has worked with the director multiple times, and they have a relationship and almost kind of like a syntax, or maybe even like shorthand. When you're going to see a movie with them, you know how they're going to kind of interact. Spike says that Denzel and he are just kind of in sync, and Denzel says, "Well, Spike hires me and lets me do what I do best." I think it's a great relationship, and Highest to Lowest is their first movie in 19 years. They hadn't done a movie since Inside Man, which in 2006. Their relationship started in 1990 with Mo Better Blues, the first movie that Spike and Denzel did, and then they followed that up with Malcolm X, and with He Got Game, and of course with Inside Man that I just mentioned, and now Highest to Lowest is a reunion after all these years, and so it's a big deal. Tony Scott made 5 movies at Denzel also, a completely different type of movies. So now Spike ties Tony Scott's record of Denzel movies with 5. And they work very well together. And Denzel is probably one of the greatest, most versatile actors out there. He can play almost anything. And he's a record mogul in Highest to Lowest, this one that's out right now.
Yeah, let's play a little clip from the trailer of Highest to Lowest, where a music mogul faces a life and death moral dilemma when he gets caught up in a ransom plot.
There's more to life than just making money. It's integrity. It's what you stand for. It's what you actually believe in. You believe in yourself. You believe you'll be successful. And the hard times will come from the good times. The hard times will come from success. The hard times will come from the money, and the mayhem follows.
So you like this movie, Odie?
I loved it. I loved it. I was just stunned by how much I enjoyed it. Denzel and Spike have, again, they made 5 movies, and some of them have been excellent, like Malcolm X, and some of them have had things that were good enough to kind of elevate them to a positive review, like Mo Better Blues, which is a fantastically shot movie by Ernest Dickerson. This is a remake of High and Low. Well, not a remake, it's a reimagining of the 1963 Kurosawa neo-noir High and Low, which is a masterpiece and is well worth seeing. And what Kurosawa is maybe Spike's favorite director. And he's been influenced since the beginning of his career by Kurosawa. And so this movie is this reimagining where it's now taking place in the music world as opposed to the original film, which took place in kind of the shoe world. Toshiro Mifune, his character was a shoe company mogul. And now Denzel is a record guy. He's like the Lucius Lyon of this movie.
Well, I haven't seen it. I can't wait to see it. One of the aspects of Denzel Washington's performances that I love is how playful and silly he can be sometimes, and even in dramatic roles, like there's a flash. I think it makes it a very human quality to bring to movies. And one of the things I love about Spike Lee is, for you correct me with a better word, but sort of a mystical view or veil that he can sometimes put on things that make them seem otherworldly, even though they are very everyday. Does this movie contain those?
Absolutely. I mean, it opens with shots of New York from Brooklyn, while Norm Lewis, who was in The Five Bloods and who also was in Porgy and Bess and is a fantastic singer, he does a cover of "Oh What a Beautiful Morning," the opening song from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And it's just so almost ridiculous, but New York is glowing up and it looks wonderful. And then you have this song from Oklahoma in it, which is almost a startling contrast, but also actually works when you kind of see where Spike is going with it. There are also scenes where Matthew Libatique, I can never say his name. Libatique, I think is his last name, how you
Close
say it.
enough.
Yeah.
He's thank you. Fix it. I never knew. He's shot several films of Spike Lee's, including this one, and you have Barry Alexander Brown working, co-editing this film, and he's been with Spike since almost the beginning of Spike's career. So you have these people who, behind the camera, Wynn Thomas, and these people behind the camera who know Spike's work, and they work together. And again, it's almost like a shorthand. You can see when you watch a Spike Lee movie, even the bad ones, there's a visual quality to them that is sometimes astounding.
Okay, so let's move on. So we get a big thumbs up on that one. Big thumbs up on that one.
Oh,
so
yeah.
let's move on. Let's play a clip from the trailer of Nobody 2, starring Bob Odenkirk. We'll play the clip, and then you can tell us all about it on the other side.
I've come to terms with the fact that you don't have an average job. But we haven't seen you in months. And summer break's just a few days away.
We should do something. Strictly family time.
Come on, kids. It can be an adventure.
I think I stumbled into something.
You're vacationing in an old bootlegging route. Full of drugs, crooked cops, and one woman who controls it all.
Yeah. And then they go on and say, you didn't take your family there. And then he says, yeah. So what's the deal with this?
Well, it's the sequel to Nobody, and first, whoever called it Nobody 2 just needs to be fired because it's the laziest title I've ever heard.
What would you have called it?
I don't know. I have nobody.
Nobody
more
again.
Nobody.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is why I don't name movies.
Well, the
the
entire
two is kinda
cast, right,
lazy.
is back in the Nobody 2 from the first cast.
Absolutely. Pretty much everybody is back. Connie Nielsen's the wife. Now we have the addition of Sharon Stone, who shows up and she's the big baddie, and she's very, very good in it. The movie is ridiculous. It is made by the guy who invented John Wick. He's the writer of both Nobody and Nobody 2. And so it has that kind of quality, although Bob Odenkirk, again, he's perfectly cast like Keanu is as John Wick. He's an everyman. And, he turns out to be an assassin, a very efficient assassin, who is now taking his family on this vacation to a park that his father, who's played by Christopher Lloyd, of all people, took them to. Christopher Lloyd is back. Doc Brown is shooting down people with a Gatling gun, blowing them up. And this park turns out to be a front for Sharon Stone's business, where she runs every illegal thing you could think of. And, and here in New Jersey, we had a park called Action Park where you went to get injured. And that's what it made me think
Action
of.
Park. There's a documentary on this, right?
What?
This Action Park.
Oh, yeah.
There's a great documentary on it.
Wait a minute.
And a good book, too.
Yeah.
By the same guy.
It's a quick aside. You literally knowing you're going to get injured, or is that they joke, I assume?
No, everyone who went to this park ended up getting injured. It's like, it's not an exaggeration.
When I meet people close to my age who are from New Jersey, I ask them, do you have any Action Park scars? And then we compare Action Park scars like, we've gone into battle.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Look this up. Look up
It's a real
Action Park. I am right
They used to call
now.
it Traction Park.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Alpine
Traction Park.
The Alpine Slide is the ride where someone got decapitated, and
It's terrible. We laugh, but it's terrible.
Geez, you don't want to go on
You
the
need
roller
your government.
coaster,
You
I
need your
guess.
government to keep these things safe.
Yeah,
I just want to say
okay.
that. New Jersey, well, you can do.
I
So
went
it's an
more than
amusement
once 'cause I'm
park
a
like
fool.
this. It's an amusement park like
Yes.
this. I wonder if we went back in time and told Liam Neeson and Bob Odenkirk that they were going to end up being action heroes after they turned 50. I wonder what their reaction would have been as young actors in comics.
Yeah.
I think Liam Neeson would have kind of been fine with that, but Bob Odenkirk, he spent 2 years training. So the one thing I love about the John Wick movies and these movies is that you see the person fighting. So these other movies are Cuisinart. They say the edited so poorly because the actor can't fight. You see Bob Odenkirk fighting. You see Keanu fighting in John Wick, right?
Right.
So I love the fact that it's like the old movie musicals where you got to see the whole person's body as they danced. This is the one of the big pluses of these movies, of the Nobody movies and John Wick movies, but they're ridiculous, and also they're extremely, extremely violent. So I kind of point that out. Just know you don't want to take
stupid.
the kids.
Yeah, it's stupid violence too. It's like people get like they should be dead and they get up.
Well, it's exceptionally graphic, and I love gore, so it doesn't bother me. But I just put that out.
Good
it's
parental
violent.
warning. I appreciate that. All right, and the movie.
Speaking of Liam Neeson, did you write something about the new movie? I'm not sure if you did.
I reviewed it.
What'd you think?
I was shocked. I liked it. I thought it was funny.
You see, we're asking because Jim Browdy saw it alone and didn't like it. And then he went on for about an hour when I was with him 2 weeks ago talking about how he didn't like it. And everyone I have talked to who has seen it liked Naked Gun too.
What was his objection?
Oh, he said to me he said he laughed out loud
but
3 or 4 times, but that wasn't good enough. But I didn't know, stupid me, that this was the beginning of the romance between Pamela Anderson and Liam Neeson. I think that
we can
alone
all cheer for.
would be a reason to see the movie, to see them falling in love on the set.
Right. But it's actually very funny. I was surprised, and they did something they don't normally do for critics. They had an open bar. before the movie. Now, I'm not allowed to drink, and even if I wanted to, I was on antibiotics. I couldn't have any drinks.
Okay, that's his disclaimer. Is he still liked it, even though he
Boston
was sober?
Globe, please don't fire me.
And on antibiotics.
I know.
You're a fun date. Oh, I can just tell. All right, let's move to a movie that everyone can see. It's got a better a sequel named Freakier Friday. You okay with that? Is that all right? You good with that?
I'm fine with Freakier Friday as a title.
All right, let's hear a clip from the trailer of Freakier Friday, the sequel to the 2003 movie called Freaky Friday.
Oh my God, what is happening? Hey, who am I? It's me. It's Mom. If you're me and I'm you, then who is that? I'm Grandma, sweetheart. Yeah! Last time, we convinced everyone that we were each other until we switched back.
I didn't want to be a part of this family, and now I'm part of some dodgy family curse. And I'm the eldest.
As teenagers, we have no power. But as adults...
Okay. Lindsay Lohan, Jamie Lee Curtis, what'd you think?
I didn't like it. And you know, Lindsay Lohan is actually good because she finally gets to play like the kid this time. Remember, she was the adult last time. And so she finally gets to play a kid, and she has a lot of fun with the physical comedy. And Jamie Lee Curtis is, as always, a very good comedian. And the problem is, it's the same movie. It is literally the same movie as Freaky Friday, which is a remake of the 1976 Freaky Friday, which I wrote about for my little Disney piece of Disney live-action movies that I saw as a kid. Why, you know, it all they did was they doubled the number, which actually makes things more confusing because I couldn't figure out and remember who was in whose body.
Yes, four. There's four body swaps,
There's four bodies instead of two. Body swap movies from the 80s have always been two people. There's a reason for that. You know, and so it's basically more of the same. And now they added kind of these like mean jokes because Jamie Lee Curtis is old. So now, you know, she's decrepit. She's peeing on herself. It's you know, I didn't offend me because I'm not that old.
Right.
Yeah, people could find some complaint about, but as far as for kids, it's fine. There's nothing objectionable or dirty in it, and I think kids will like it a lot. And I think the people who love the remake of Freaky Friday, which I actually did enjoy, might enjoy this more than I did. But it's the same movie. You're gonna pay $27. You might as well just watch Freaky Friday at home.
And see, I was gonna go last night, so now I'm feeling better that I didn't go.
But tell us something. You mentioned the Disney live action movies. You wrote a really fascinating piece about watching these different Disney movies from the classic era. What was your thesis?
Well, since Freakier Friday was coming out, I wanted to go back and look at some of these old movies. I had done a piece on the animated movies. Now, when I was a kid, they would show double features of Disney cartoon, Disney movie. My mother would take me. So I saw all the classic movies, animated movies on the big screen. And these movies, the live action movies, are usually pretty bad. Yeah. So I wanted to kind of tie that to Freakier Friday, but also they were my introduction to a lot of actors. Betty Davis, Helen Hayes, Fred MacMurray, all these big people I saw at first through Disney movies before I saw something like All About Eve or, the Double Indemnity or movies that I love. I got to see these people in Disney movies. Some of them are pretty bad. Kurt Russell, of course, famously was in The Computer Wore Tennis Shoes. And then Jodie Foster was in Freaky Friday. And she's the only 13-year-old actor who could convincingly play a grown person in that movie. So that was my thesis, was kind of let's look back at these movies that Disney made in the 70s for kids. They don't make movies for kids anymore. Do you ever notice that? Yeah. How many movies can you take your children to nowadays? Well, unless they're sickos like me when I was a kid, you know.
Yeah. No, it used to be. I mean, and I also think part of it is the and I say this, I'm trying to use it as a neutral phrase, bad movies that you could go see as a kid that were G or P, whatever the rating was. In the 60s and 70s, the Parkway Cinema in Chelsea would all day long be showing movies on Saturday and Sunday, and it was, these really terrible CG movies, whatever was there, and we'd go all afternoon and watch them, and there wasn't anything offensive in them. They were just movies, and I don't even know how widely distributed they were, but you can't just send your kid to the movie theater for the afternoon anymore, which is a way back century last century thing.
Well,
that was me too.
I kind of like the flubber movies.
Well, that
with Absent-Minded Professor.
I said they were good. I said that's the best movie I'm writing about.
My father was a salesman for Firestone, so he would bring home flubber that we could all play with it in the backyard. And then we all got rashes from the flubber. So I don't know what was in that
government.
flubber.
Again, this is the second warning about how we need the government to watch these things.
I don't know.
They didn't care about us Gen X kids.
I guess.
We feel like, just get burned up at Absent Park and,
But for people that don't know, instead of being a regular pinky ball that you just bounce in a regular way, it would come back like a basketball or something. The flubber, you'd bounce it, would go like 30 feet high.
It was great.
It was really cool. I love that flubber, even though it did give me a terrible body rash.
Here's the very controversial topic that we've been waiting for, Odie, is The Wizard of Oz, of course, in the Sphere in Las Vegas. Let's just take a little listen to the classic here, of course, of the Wicked Witch warning us.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
That's a warning from the Sphere, I believe.
That's a warning from James Dolan in the Sphere, I'll get you, my movie, and I, too.
Yeah, so of course.
That was good, Odie.
Talked a little bit a couple of weeks ago with Jared about this. They have reimagined the Wizard of Oz so that it can play in the Sphere. If you're unfamiliar with the Sphere, it's this circular, obviously, visually incredibly captivating screen. And when people see concerts there, they think it's the best thing on the face of the earth. Some Wizard of Oz purists think that this has been horrible. It's terrible what they did. Others are saying, hey, it's a new world. It's a new take. What's your take on this, Odie?
Oh, I think it's horrible, and I'll tell you why. I mean, first of all, I love Vegas. I go for twice a year. I've never been in the Sphere because it costs $300 to get in. So now you're going to pay $300 to see a bastardized version of The Wizard of Oz, which is 30 minutes shorter than the actual Wizard of Oz, and has been blown up to this gigantic screen. Now, they blew The Wizard of Oz up to IMAX not too long ago, and they also had a 3D version. It survived that. I thought it might be able to survive this, but now what they're doing is they're adding extra features to it through AI, but now it turns out the AI didn't work, so they're actually using graphics people to do this. That happened after my article ran, so I couldn't add that. But it turned out, but the bottom line is they're basically redoing a movie. And then you have James Dolan and this woman, I don't remember what her name was, on CBS saying, we're not modifying it. And then they cut to a scene where they actually have a dead actor doing a role. The AI or whatever they're using has the actor do something that he would not have been able to do in the movie, and also he's deceased. Then they also expanded the sky, put the sun in the wrong place. The Yellow Brick Road has got a curb now. And then they get Ben Mankiewicz, and I'm going to get in trouble because I do stuff with TCM, but Ben Mankiewicz is on endorsing this. Now, like I said in my article, Ben Mankiewicz, who is the head of the face of TCM now, he's endorsing changing a classic movie into something else. And I said it was like a vegan interviewing Colonel Sanders and raving about the chicken. And so that was the big thing that really made me angry enough to write that article, because not only do you have all of us thinking this is a sham, but then you have the guy who's supposed to represent classic movies endorsing them destroying a classic movie.
Is there a time where this would ever be okay? I mean, is there? No.
Okay. All right. So listen, we want to, what do you see at the Coolidge Theater so people can hear about this if they want to go over and see you in action?
I am doing a seminar on Inside Man, the movie that Spike and Denzel did before Highest to Lowest, and then I'll be introducing the screening of Inside Man, one of the great New York City heist movies. So I'll be talking about how it was filmed. I was actually around the corner working when they filmed Inside Man.
Oh, wow.
So I got to see a lot of some of the actors. I got to see Jodie Foster and Denzel and Spike. I never got to see Clive Owen because, if you've seen the movie, you know why. But I did see the rest of them. They were literally around the corner from where I was working.
Wow. So you're going to talk about how this movie came together, and people can get tickets. So was it 8 o'clock at night? Is it 8 o'clock at night?
The seminar is at 6:15. The screening itself is at 7 o'clock. I will not spoil anything from the movie at all.
Okay.
All right. Odie, before we let you go, I just want to ask, what are you looking forward to? What movie are you looking forward to as we get into the fall and the big end of year bonanza?
The highest lowest is the movie I was looking forward to all year. I'm about to go to TIFF, Toronto, the International Film Festival, so I'll see a lot of movies there. I don't have an answer because I'm so confused as to what's coming out. I'm doing the fall preview at the paper, which will run on the 14th of September. And then I go to TIFF, and then I go to New York Film Festival. So I'm going to be bombarded by all these movies coming out. And I'm not really sure. I mean, I have some high hopes for some of the things. There's a new Soderbergh movie. There's a couple of Richard Linklater movies that are coming out. I'll tell you what I'm not looking forward to real quick, and this is going to upset me. The Bruce Springsteen movie.
Oh, tell us about that.
Why are you not excited?
Because nobody can tell a story about Bruce Springsteen better than Bruce Springsteen. They got the guy from The Bear, Jeremy Allen White, to do this. And these biopics, I've said this a million times in my reviews, they always wind up doing the same tropey nonsense that irritates me. You get something that might be decent, like Respect, and you get something horrible, like A Complete Unknown, but they all do the same thing. And Jeremy Allen White is singing his own songs, which I think is always a plus. But do we really, and I'm a huge Springsteen fan. All the people that were Dylan fans wrote me horrible letters about my pan of A Complete Unknown.
Yeah.
And then some of them saw it and realized that I was right. Like, they're basically, destroying someone whose songs you love. And I'm terrified. So
wait a minute,
not
the
looking
guy
forward to
from The Bear is going to sing Springsteen's songs?
Yeah.
That's tricky.
Well,
I would say.
I mean, I like it. I like it because if they're passable, they don't have to recreate Springsteen or recreate who they're playing. But I do feel like when they do sing it themselves,
it's better.
It's part of
I agree.
It just brings more to their acting than if they're just straight away lip syncing someone else's music, even if it's the original. I mean, I just feel that.
I agree with you. And I agree. And you look at Gary Busey playing Buddy Holly, or Sissy Spacek playing Loretta Lynn, or even Jamie Foxx playing Ray Charles. It wasn't Jamie Foxx singing, but it was him playing, because he's a classically trained pianist. And there were a couple of times when he was actually singing. He sounds a lot like Ray Charles. I could buy into that because he's actually playing and he's a musician. I would prefer if they did sing. Taron, what's his name, Egerton, sang the Elton John song. Sounded great. Rami Malek just lip synced with his fake teeth and won an Oscar for Bohemian Rhapsody.
That's a good point.
That was bad.
Yeah, that was
bad.
I
didn't know he had fake teeth.
See, this is why I couldn't be...
His teeth won the Oscar.
Yeah, they did.
Because they made him look like the real teeth. Is that the idea? We have fake teeth to make it look at the real...
Well, it's just, you always find the thing. If the performance isn't what you want, then you can figure out why part of it is. This is why I couldn't be a movie critic, because I'm just so happy to go to the movies sometimes. I'm like, oh yeah, and then later I'm like, that wasn't so good.
Well, Odie,
All right,
thank you as always. Wednesday night, 6:15 at the Coolidge Corner. You're going to play this film and talk about the relationship between Spike Lee and Denzel Washington.
Yes.
And what's the film? Inside Man.
Inside Man. It's
Inside Man.
All right.
Odie, thank you very much. See you soon.
Odie Henderson is the movie critic for the Boston Globe and the author of Black Caesars and Foxy Cleopatras, A History of Blaxploitation Cinema. Coming up after a quick break, former U.S. Labor Secretary Robert Reich is out with a new memoir about his life and career, and he is going to join us. I'm Sue O'Connell in for Browdy. She is Marjorie Egan, and you are listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
As the climate warms, ticks are spreading to parts of the country they've never been found in before, and experts are concerned with the potential health threats.
How many ticks are carrying pathogens, and where those pathogens are being carried by the ticks.
I'm Ari Shapiro. We tag along with a small team of tick surveyors in Montana on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Museum of Science, presenting the new exhibit, Perception Playground, which explores how your brain shapes your understanding of reality. Tickets at MOS.org. And Compass on the Bay, an assisted living community in South Boston for those with Alzheimer's and related dementias, with research-based therapeutic programming for those with memory loss. More at compassonthebay.com.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I'm here with news influencer Sue O'Connell and for Jim Browdy. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News, back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow, Wednesday, and Friday. But right now, we are joined on Zoom by someone who once co-hosted a TV show here at GBH2, The Long and the Short of It, with Wyoming Senator Alan Simpson. We're going to play a little sound of that, actually, at the end. He's also the man who went on a date with a woman named Hillary Clinton. And that was long before he went on to introduce her to Bill Clinton. Anyway, Robert Reich, you know him. He ran for governor here, was around here for a long time. He served as labor secretary in the Clinton administration, professor at the University of California at Berkeley, former Mass gubernatorial candidate, as I said, prolific Substack writer, the author of numerous books, including his latest, a brand new memoir titled Coming Up Short, a Memoir of My America. And by the way, he'll be at an event promoting that memoir on Tuesday, September 2nd. That's Tuesday, September 2nd, First Parish Church, and at the Brattle Theater on Wednesday the 3rd for a screening of the film The Last Class, which I watched again this morning, about his career, trying to inspire, actually. He wasn't trying. He actually succeeded the next generation of leaders. Robert Reich, thank you very, very much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Well, Marjorie, it's good to talk to you and good to see you. I don't know, I don't think I've seen you or talked to you in a little while.
No, and, I interviewed you when you were running for governor. That was a long time ago.
That was almost the last century. It wasn't
that's
quite.
Almost the last century. That's right.
And I was actually at a filming of The Long and Short of It in the old GBH building with Stephen Mindich from the Boston Phoenix. So the two of you got to make height jokes about things. So it's great to see you again. Obviously, you're just kicking back, doing nothing. Taking a lap around the pool. But talk to us about the new book, what you're hoping people will take away from it, from your memoir. What are the lessons? What are the messages?
Well, Sue, obviously, the title, Coming Up Short, is a little bit of a double entendre. I'm talking about myself. I'm very short. I've always been very short. I was, when I was little, I was very short, and I'm very short now. I'm getting shorter. I think as you age.
Yeah, apparently.
After a certain age, you actually get shorter. But it's also about America. And I try to weave my story over the last nearly 80 years with the story of post-war America and ask a very basic question, and that is, how did we end up with Donald Trump? I don't believe that Trump is the problem in terms of the central cause of everything that we are now experiencing. I think he's the consequence, the culmination of decades and decades and decades of what happened to America. That's what I try to argue. That's what I try to put into focus. And it's not just the boomers. It's really much else.
Well, you talk about, at one point, 50 years of not paying attention. So what did you mean?
Well, Marjorie, when I say not paying attention, I think that, and again, I can't, even though I tried to, I can't possibly speak for an entire generation or even for those following the boomers. But I think that we took democracy pretty much for granted. We assumed that it was just strong enough, it would endure. There was no, these democratic institutions were powerful. We didn't even, when people talked about the rule of law, a lot of people's eyes glazed over.
Yes.
I mean, what is the rule of law? It doesn't mean anything. Or when people talked about due process, or corruption, conflicts of interest, these things just sort of waved over us. And now we did have the Nixon administration, so we knew something. Some of us remembered Nixon, but it was still not part of our deepest commitment, our deepest fears in terms of losing a lot of these things. And I think the problem is we were kind of smug, we were complacent.
Robert, I was born in 1961, so I'm either an infant boomer or an elderly millennial, I guess, right? Or Gen Xer. I always get them confused.
Yeah.
But I remember when I started volunteering for political campaigns in the 1990s, I remember thinking that people were overreacting because the baby boomers would act in their own self-interest and fix things, right?
Yeah.
This is actually what I thought.
Right.
I would think we don't, climate change is a problem. It's a crisis, whatever we were calling it, global warming, whatever we were calling it. But you know what? The baby boomers have done such amazing things. They will fix this. Social Security, don't worry about it. They will fix this. I had no idea that you're just going to wrap up your tent and head to the hills and leave us. And I feel that naivete really was part of the optimism that boomers had to some degree that trickled down. Was I cuckoo for that?
That's a trickle-down optimism. I've never heard about trickle-down optimism
Didn't work.
before. It doesn't work. Nothing trickles down. Sue, I think that there's something very profound about what you just said. And I, having obviously been a boomer, I also was caught up in the post-war optimism.
Yeah.
It was optimism about the possibility of positive change, or about the not only the possibility, but the necessity and inevitability of positive change. And, when I was a young man, I worked in civil rights, and one of my good friends was actually killed, murdered by the Ku Klux Klan for trying to register voters in Mississippi.
Who protected you as a child, you mentioned.
Yes. Mickey Schwerner. And also I was in the anti-war movement. And I think those of us who went through the civil rights movement, the anti-war movement, who have a certain sense of efficacy and agency, obviously we can do everything. We can change the world. And I don't want to suggest that we didn't in some very positive ways. I mean, the movement toward marriage equality, toward women's rights, toward the Civil Rights Act and the Civil Rights Movement and Voting Rights Act. I mean, these were very important milestones. But I think that in the final measure is where we are now. And I believe, as I say in the book, that particularly after the 2008 financial crisis, it was as if a veil was taken down from the eyes of many Americans, and they saw the system as corrupt, as fundamentally corrupt. There was the biggest bankers who were responsible for the carnage, the financial carnage. They got bailed out. And millions of people lost their homes, and they lost their savings, and they lost their jobs. And it looked so unfair. And I think that's ultimately where the Tea Party movement, the Occupy movement, Bernie Sanders, and Donald Trump came from.
Well, I think that's great analysis, and that's one of, I think, Barack Obama's big mistakes that he did was maybe he was intimidated by Wall Street, I don't know, but he didn't go after these bankers in a big kind of way. But one of the things I think is so fascinating right now is because the things that Americans want, good health care. They don't want tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires. They would like something to do something about climate change and guns and all these things that they would like. When you look at polls anyway, it's what the Democrats are proposing, and yet Donald Trump is the president. And the idea of people voting against their own self-interest, is that from what you're talking about, seeing things as being unfair and thinking that voting that way is going to help them, or what?
Well, I think that you're letting the Democrats off too easily,
okay,
Marjorie. And I mean, one of the points I make in the book is that so many people, certainly by the turn of the last century, certainly by the 2000s, had become so cynical about the system. And that 2008 financial crisis was sort of the last brick in the facade of cynicism. And the Republicans came up with cultural populism.
Right.
They blamed immigrants, and they blamed the deep state, whatever that is, and transgender people, and they had all sorts of cultural boogeymen that they could explain. I mean, it wasn't an explanation; it was a silly and false explanation. But at least they gave Americans who were suffering and who were angry a set of scapegoats. The Democrats could have told the truth. They could have said, well, the reason that you are in such dire straits, the reason that we are seeing so much stagnant incomes and so much economic insecurity and so many people feeling so stretched is because most of the gains of the economy have gone to the top.
Yeah.
They've gone to the wealthy individuals. They've gone to big corporations. And some of those wealthy individuals and some of those big corporations have abused their wealth and poured that money, some of the money, back into politics and made our politics a cesspool of special interests. And that's what we have to change. That's what we will change. But instead, the Democrats, too many of the Democrats, simply continued to drink from the same trough as the Republicans and would not say the truth and would not bite the hands that feed them. I think that's the sad reality.
We're talking to Robert Reich. The book is Coming Up Short, a Memoir of My America. So let me ask you this. You talk a lot about bullies. You talk about being bullied yourself as a child. You talk about Michael Schmerger coming to your aid. A lot of people would call Donald Trump a bully. I guess I'm not that surprised by people in Congress who are worried about getting reelected, but I am surprised by the capitulation by very powerful law firms, by very powerful universities, because they seem to be defying that first rule of fighting against a bully, which if you don't fight back, he'll take your lunch money forever. We seem to be capitulating for little gain, as far as I can see. Why is that happening?
Well, I think it's because it is very difficult for a particular organization, whether it's a university or a law firm or a media company or any organization, to fight back alone. Harvard University, for example, to take just out of the air,
out of the blue. That's right.
I mean, it's been difficult for Harvard. Harvard apparently is now in the throes of capitulating, or at least making a deal. You can't make a deal. Hello? You cannot make a deal with a tyrant. You cannot appease a tyrant. A tyrant will always come back for more. And what Harvard could do, what Harvard, in my humble opinion, should do, is work in an alliance with Columbia, with every other university, and say to the administration in Washington, no, none of us is going to capitulate. The same thing with law firms, the same thing with museums and cultural institutions and libraries, and media firms and everybody else and every other organization that is being really intimidated by this administration that is trying to take over, essentially in a kind of neo-fascist way, the entire country. But it's happened so fast, and I think that we are not in the habit of working together and collectively.
I also, I think too, the idea of what the stakes actually are, I don't think we're doing a very good job communicating, and generally folks have very busy lives, and I don't think that a lot of folks think of politics sometimes as more than a hobby or a game or something that doesn't impact them until it does. And I'm wondering, with your great work on TikTok and your great work teaching and writing and speaking, what is a message that we can adopt to communicate to people what the stakes are right now? Because, whenever you tell the truth about what the stakes are and it doesn't happen, people don't congratulate others for avoiding the disaster. They say, well, you said it was going to be bad and it wasn't, right? And it's like, well, it wasn't bad because we all came together and made sure it wasn't bad. That's why the disaster didn't happen. What would you say? What would the advice be for you as a communicator to talk about what the stakes are right now?
Well, the disaster, Sue, is happening. It's not something in the future. It is right now. We are losing our democracy right now as we speak. And the frustrating thing to me personally is that I've been talking about this for many, many years. Widening inequality of income and wealth and power inevitably leads to what we are now experiencing. Because when people at the top and institutions at the top and big corporations become as powerful as they are, then, as the great jurist Louis Brandeis was reputed to have said in the 1920s, America faces a choice. You can either have great wealth in the hands of a few, or you can have a democracy. But we can't have both. I think we also, you guys and I and everybody else who has even part of the public's ear, needs to say over and over, we are the leaders we have been waiting for. There is nobody else. Don't expect that some politician or some charismatic leader is going to bail us out of this. It is up to us. It is our responsibility. That's what a democracy really is. That's what our experience and experiment in self-government that is almost 250 years old is really about. It started here in Boston, Cambridge. We know about this. We have got to take this responsibility.
Well, you touched on that in the book and also in the piece you wrote about fighting bullies and how to live a moral life in the face of these bullies. So what'd you say?
Well, in terms of fighting bullies, and Marjorie, it's all the same. I mean, we're talking about the same theme, and that's why the book that I tried to put together my own life and my own sort of personal experience with what has happened to the country. I mean, the point is that the only way to fight bullies is by uniting across race and across even politics and gender and every other way we can unite. I mean, the oligarchy, and let's use that term, we can come back to it. I mean, we're talking about a very small number of extraordinarily wealthy and powerful people behind Trump. The oligarchy is gaining and has gained and is destroying democracy, and as with Trump as their front person, mainly because they've divided and conquered. They have divided us to the extent that we believe that our enemies are people in red states, people who wear MAGA buttons. But actually, our real enemies, and I don't want to use the word enemy in too strong a way. I mean, the problem we face, what we need to do, is not just feel that we're involved in a kind of semi-civil war in this country. What they would like, that is the oligarchs, would want us to think that we are, so that we don't look up and we don't see where all the money and power has actually gone. We've got to, once again, become a public that understands our responsibilities to one another and to the future, and take back our government and take back our politics.
So should we be taking to the streets by the millions? Or, I think that's a great question now, because people are very upset. At least some people are very upset. What do? We saw the Israelis over the weekend. You see the French, if they try to change 15 minutes in the 40-hour work week, they're out there in force. What should we be doing?
Well, I think that taking to the streets is part of it, not in Washington. I worry about us. If we all were going to converge on Washington, we would be playing exactly into Trump's trap. I mean, he would like nothing more than for millions of Americans to converge on Washington. Then he calls out the troops in the Insurrection Act. No, in our communities, we definitely need to be demonstrating, but we also need to be every minute calling our representatives and our senators in Washington. We need to be boycotting companies that are really caving into Trump. We need to be using whatever power we have, and there is a lot of power, to fortify representatives and governors as well, and every politician who is standing up to Trump. We need to make it clear that we are supporting that kind of courage. We've got to be intolerant of violence and threats of violence and bigotry, and we've got to call it out when we hear it. We could go on. We could have an entire program about what people could do. But you see, we're out of the habit of taking these actions. We're out of the habit of feeling as if we are responsible.
And we are.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Robert Reich, congratulations on a great book, on your Substack account, on your Sunday messages. I mean, you are everywhere, doing everything. It's very.
But Marjorie, it is not up to me.
It is not. No, it's not up to you. But you're inspiring us. And if people haven't seen, what's it called? The Final Class. The Final Class.
Oh, the Last Class.
The Last Class.
Yes.
That is wonderful. So thank you for that as well.
And we didn't even get to the Hillary date yet. So we'll have to have you come back.
But she likes a lot of popcorn. She likes a lot of butter on her popcorn. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. All right.
Yes.
We've been speaking.
Wonderful to see you, Marjorie.
Yeah.
Very nice to talk to you.
Good to see you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Robert Reich is the former
us.
U.S. Labor Secretary during the Clinton administration. His new memoir, which is out now, is titled Coming Up Short, A Memoir of My America. You can also see him on Substack at robertreich.substack.com. Okay. He has a book on Tuesday, Book Talk Tuesday, September 2nd at First Parish Church in Cambridge, and the screening of his The Last Class film on Wednesday, September 3rd at the Great Brattle Theater in Cambridge. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's the Two More Things segment. I'm Sue O'Connell, in for Browdy. She is Marjorie Egan, and you are listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Great white sharks are seen every summer in New England waters, but there are other sharks swimming about, even in Boston Harbor.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's the biggest sand tiger we've ever had. So for the better part of 2 decades now, sand tigers have been protected. And we are optimistically starting to see some signs of recovery.
I'm Craig Lamolt. That story later today on GBH's All Things Considered.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And American Repertory Theater with Passengers, a blend of cirque, music, dance, and superhuman skill. The New York Times writes, extraordinary acrobatics provide gasps of delight. amrep.org. And the Cambridge Homes, a nonprofit, independent, and assisted living community in Cambridge, offering residents supportive services as well as cultural, educational, and social programs. thecambridgehomes.org/tradition.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Marjorie Egan and Sue O'Connell. We are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. It's time for our short segment, aptly titled Two More Things. Sue O'Connell, go first.
Here's my thing. So, Marjorie, I'm against public, graffiti, putting up things against government property. I'm against it.
Outrageous.
I'm against public art, too. How about that? No, I'm kidding. I'm only kidding. I got everybody in Cambridge all upset. Sorry about that. But if it's funny, then I think I can be a little bit more forgiving. And you may have seen this reported in the Boston Globe. The Zakim Bridge sign, there's been a new one that was posted on the Bill Russell Bridge. And basically what it does, well, you know what? Let me let the author of this saying tell us what.
Okay.
Here's a clip from Brookline's own Conan O'Brien in 2020. It was a pandemic-era at-home show. He was thinking out loud. Here's what he thought about the Zakim Bridge.
This, to me, just looks like a penis that's being held up with wire. That's what it looks like.
And so someone decided to make a very formal, grown-up, almost historical-looking sign that they put up saying that exact same thing, quoting, of course, Conan O'Brien, and hung it on the Russell Bridge, pointing to the Zakim Bunker Hill Memorial Bridge. Of course, they are taking action, taking it down.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the thought that went into it. And you never know. Sometimes this kind of public vandalism turns into like the Smoots over the Smoot Bridge.
That's right.
So these things happen.
You haven't told us, does a Zachem look like a penis or not?
Well, I don't see a lot of them, Marjorie, but I understand that they might.
Okay.
You would know better than I.
Right.
What's your thing?
Well, I think this is great for all the dog lovers out there, for anybody who likes dogs. I think this is a riot. Over there at Fresh Pond, the little Fresh Pond Dog Beach, they now have a stick library.
Thank goodness.
So the idea is you can bring your dog over there to run in and out of the water, but you pick up a stick at the library, the dog runs around with a stick, brings it back to you, and then at the end you return the stick. So there are little small shelves with the message, take a stick, leave a stick. And it's kind of a bonding thing for all the dogs. They don't have to steal each other's sticks. They don't have to break sticks off the trees. They can just take them out of the stick library. And I love it. I used to have a little dog, a really little dog, like 10 pounds. The dog would carry around a stick that was about 2 feet, wide, strutting down the street, big, kind of added to his dimensions, I guess, with the big stick. Makes dogs really proud to have one of those sticks. And I'm all for the little Cambridge library. I think they should be in every dog park.
One of the things yes, and of course some people are thinking why the dogs can't find your own sticks. There aren't enough sticks out there. But the dogs these sticks also smell like other dogs.
That's right.
Which is very exciting to the dogs because their smell is the most important sense they have. So they're getting this fun stick that belongs to someone else and they think that they're getting it, so I can imagine the joy.
That's absolutely right. It's a lovely thing, and it's one of these little wisecrackers said in this story. It's so Cambridge.
It is.
It's so Cambridge to have the little dog stick library, but I think in this case, I'm down with Cambridge.
Sharing is caring, Marjorie. We should share more.
That's right, Sue.
Okay.
You're so
all right.
lovely.
We're going to take
thoughtful.
a quick break. We are out of time for this, so you're happy about that, I'm sure. Yeah. But coming up after the 1 o'clock news, the Reverends Irene Monroe and Emmett G. Price. They're here for another round of All Revved Up. I'm Sue O'Connell, in for Jim Browdy, who is on vacation, yes, again. And Marjorie Egan, who is here working, yes, again.
That's
and you're
right.
listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
GBH Radio is here for you every day with the news you depend on. Sustaining members make this possible. Their small monthly contributions, joined with fellow listeners, add up to huge community support. Learn more at gbh.org/sustainer.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And M. Steinert & Sons Pianos, the reach of the Symphony Hall Piano Event, Friday, September 5th through Sunday the 7th at Symphony Hall, msteinert.com. And Mass General Brigham, their leading heart and vascular specialists, are committed to providing breakthrough care to patients with cutting-edge research and innovative treatments. Learn more at massgeneralbrigham.org/heart.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Marjorie Egan. Ahead on hour number 3 of BPR is the return of All Revved Up with the Reverends Emmett G. Price III and Irene Monroe. They'll talk about technology and faith, including the rise of Silicon Valley techno-religion and an AI chatbot for religious questions.
And I'm Sue O'Connell, in for Jim Browdy. Then we're going to end the show with you and time. We all have someone in our lives who lives by their own time. But when you say 6 o'clock, do you mean on the dot, or is it just more of a suggestion? Does your interpretation of the clock drive your partner insane, or vice versa? You can give us a call or text on BPR at 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. European and NATO leaders are joining Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House this hour. NPR's Greg Myrie reports on the high-stakes meeting President Trump's hosting in a bid to end the Russia-Ukraine war.
Zelensky will have quite the entourage. Many top political figures in Europe, the leaders of Britain, France, Germany, and Italy, the head of NATO, the president of the European Commission. Pretty remarkable that all these leaders cleared their schedules and agreed to go to Washington after the Trump-Zelensky meeting was announced Saturday. This is a major effort to show European unity and solidarity with Ukraine. We're at this crucial moment as Trump makes this concentrated effort to find a solution to the war.
NPR's Greg Myrie. After Zelensky was excluded from last Friday's summit between the U.S. and Russia, European leaders want to weigh in on Trump's suggestions of a land swap, which Zelensky opposes, and security guarantees that Russia will not invade again. President Trump has posted on social media that he plans to sign an executive order to eliminate mail-in voting and voting machines ahead of next year's midterms. Election experts, however, say this is not something that a president has the power to do. Here's NPR's Ashley Lopez.
Trump said in a statement that states are merely an agent for the federal government when it comes to tabulating votes. He also said states must run their elections however the federal government tells them to. But Tammy Patrick with the Election Center, which is the National Association of Election Officials, says that's actually not how this works.
There's no foundation in any sort of federal law that would provide a president the opportunity or authority to, in fact, dictate how states conduct their elections.
She said that includes deciding what methods of voting states can use, as well as how those votes are counted. Ashley Lopez, NPR News.
Yesterday, Israelis staged one of their biggest protests in nearly 2 years of war. Organizers say hundreds of thousands of people rallied to end the Gaza war and reach a hostage deal with Hamas. NPR's Daniel Lestrin reports from Tel Aviv.
Protest organizers released aerial footage of masses filling downtown Tel Aviv at the end of Sunday's day of demonstrations. They said hundreds of thousands of people rallied, shutting down roads across Israel and protesting outside the homes of government ministers. Many businesses closed too. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said calls to end the war now, before Hamas is defeated, only strengthen Hamas. Negotiations for a ceasefire broke down weeks ago. Now Qatar and Egypt are working on a new proposal. Israel is demanding the release of all of the hostages Hamas is holding. The previous proposal spoke of releasing only half the hostages for a temporary ceasefire. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
From Washington, this is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The Massachusetts coastline will feel the effects of Hurricane Erin this week, even as the storm is expected to pass hundreds of miles out to sea. National Weather Service says Erin, which was a Category 4 storm as it passed through the Bahamas today, will bring high surf and dangerous riptides to ocean-exposed beaches from Tuesday through Friday. Adds that south-facing beaches will feel it the most. And anyone who finds themselves caught up in a rip current should try to relax. Don't fight it, as the current will not pull a swimmer underwater, but it will cause swimmers to get tired and or distressed if they try to swim against it. You're advised to swim along the current until you're out of danger. It's possible ferry service to Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket could be affected by Erin as well. Officials at the Mass Department of Transportation say they're in the early development stages for planning a new car-free crossing of the Charles River from Leverett Circle in Boston to Land Boulevard in Cambridge. Streets Block Mass reports that the plan is based on a proposal from the Museum of Science. MassDOT officials say the project will construct an off-road shared-use path with a movable bridge on the west side of the Museum of Science. It would connect the Boston and Cambridge sides of the Charles River, providing improved safety and mobility for pedestrians as well as cyclists. The movable bridge design will also allow marine traffic to transit the river. Red Sox Orioles at friendly Fenway tonight. We are at 70 degrees in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance. Progressive is looking for dedicated and forward-thinking individuals to join their growing team. More information, including application, at progressive.com/careers.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Sue O'Connell is in for Jim Braude. I am Marjorie Eakin. Sue O'Connell, of course, is from NBC 10 Boston. Is it
correct? That is correct.
NBC
10 years now we've been there, Marjorie. You'll get the hang of it.
Is that why it's called NBC? No, that's not why it's called NBC 10.
we're on Channel 10.
You're on Channel 10.
When there used to be channels.
That's right. Well, it used to be
channels. But we
channels.
still say 10.
That's very important to remember that, though. Channel 10. Okay. We are streaming as well at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow. But right now we are joined by the Reverends Irene Monroe and Emma G. Price III for All Revved Up. Reverend Irene Monroe is a syndicated religion columnist, the Boston voice of Detours, African-American Heritage Trail. Emma G. Price III is the founding pastor of Community of Love Christian Fellowship in Allston, the inaugural dean of Africana Studies at Berklee College of Music. Together, they host the All Revved Up podcast, which is available wherever you get your podcasts. Hello, you two. Good to see you again.
Hey, happy summer.
I know.
And a special hello to Sue.
I know. I haven't seen you. Hi, guys. Haven't seen you guys in a while. I've, of course, been seeing you and reading you. Okay. You want the good news or the bad news first?
Good.
All right. The good news is that the Trump administration is thinking about slavery. Would you like the bad news? They're thinking about removing all mention of it from the Smithsonian Museum, right? I mean, this is the ongoing war against information and knowledge. I think it's safe to say historians are up in arms about this. Obviously, it feels to me as if we had just reached a point in American history where we were beginning to consider our roots and what it meant and how we got here, and now it looks like the Trump administration is trying to pull us back. Reverend Irene, I'll start with you. What's your reaction to what it seems the Smithsonian will be doing regarding the history of our nation?
Well, first of all, I can't imagine that the Smithsonian institution, that its foundation is that of truth here, would really capitulate and acquiesce to such absurdity. But I got to understand, one of the things I think that has troubled me for a good while, and it started actually with Trump 1.0. We began to see this sort of rhetoric that truth is not truth, alternative facts, fake news, and then with this whole movement towards patriotic history, and then this whole notion that part of making America great is to develop a revisionist type of history, and we've seen it. We've seen it with the removal of DEI, which we're in that era right now. The big brouhaha about critical race theory. So I think that what happens here is to see that Smithsonian, unlike some of the other places that have really capitulated, that it holds true to its mission.
Emmett?
Well, I'm not bothered by this all, because if I was bothered by it, I'd have a heart attack right now. I cannot let these executive orders and the nefarious decisions by the current president disrupt my peace and certainly disrupt my blood pressure. So what it means is that those of us who are scholars, we need to continue on the path. And we need to be able to hold accountable those corporations and those big money entities that had all of these superficial, now I'm calling superficial aspirations around the George Floyd moment, who were saying that they would do all these things. We need to hold them accountable with our dollars. The Smithsonian is a federal institution. And, the president is the leader of the federal, organization. So they're going to have to do whatever they're going to have to do. But the reality is there's no stepping back from the reality that has already been documented numerous times over and over and over again, going all the way back for centuries. And so, if this is the way that he wants to go, it just proves that the president is racist. The president is discriminatory. The president is prejudiced. And we know that already. So I'm not shocked.
Yeah, but you know what, though? But it's not like we've always had an alternative or had two worlds here. We've always had Black museums, and I just got to talk about this very briefly here. The Museum of African American History, which here in Boston, people don't know that they have two sites, one that started certainly on Nantucket, and the other one that is here in Boston in the North Slope that used to be the end slope of Beacon Hill. That's how they used to code it. But one of the things is that it has always been our preservation. It has always been our Smithsonian. And so what happens here is that we are seeing a resegregation of American society. And it's not that Black folks have never had an alternative. We always had. What it becomes complicated is for other demographic groups who've have not had to live in a segregated society to survive, to figure out how do they archive and preserve and survive in this particular time.
Irene, I'll take on what you said because, Dr. Noel Trent, who is the president and CEO of the Museum of African American History, has launched a pretty serious campaign to actually fundraise so that the museum in both sites does not have to suffer from the retrenchment of federal dollars. And so for all of us who are influenced and impacted by the work of the museum, time for us to put our money where our mouth is and to invest in the Museum of African American History.
Right. And so what happens, though, where the Smithsonian was certainly that central place, and I am concerned about the African Americans Museum down in D.C. and the Trump administration has asked them to remove certain things or to rewrite things to their palate. My concern here is that where what happens is information then becomes in what we call enclaves. When Marjorie said that she never knew about the Tulsa, riots, well, it's very, very hard to be of my generation, the boomer generation, whose parents would certainly be, would know that and trickle down that information. We won't know all of American history. So what happens with white folks who say, do we have anything salvageable when we are certainly pushing against white supremacy? Then we lose the folks, the abolitionists. We lose the John Browns. We lose you folks, who allow Black voices and people of color to give voice to their history and give space that is normally considered a white space. So I think that becomes problematic. So we become more uneducated instead of moving towards enlightenment.
Emmett, you mentioned before not wanting to get your blood pressure up and have these endless hits against the United States and against Black American, the Smithsonian and DEI and the racism that's all over the place. And I think that's a great point. Part of me thinks, well, African Americans have been screwed so many times in this country, it's like this is a continuation of the screwing. And so maybe white people are more, that are not Trump fans, are more surprised because they haven't looked at their government as screwing them this kind of way, at least in a large kind of way. But it's tough. I heard somebody talking about on a weekend show here a couple of weeks ago talking about joy as resistance. And I thought, that's interesting because on the one hand, you don't want this to ruin your whole life and your peace and your blood pressure. On the other hand, you feel like you have to react. So I'm interested in where's that middle ground. You know what I mean? I was on vacation for 2 weeks and I kind of backed away a little bit from the news because I wanted to not be upset my entire vacation. Now I'm back and I'm upset again. So
I hear you.
So how you talked about trying to avoid that. How do you do that?
I have a vision for what my impact and what my influence is and what it can be. So I'm not, abdicating my responsibility and the things that I have power over and influence over. I was talking to one of my mentors last week who's going through radiation treatment. And what she says is that she has to go on and knock this thing out so she can get back to subscribing new voters so that folks can vote. So for me to hear one of my mentors who's going through a health crisis in the moment say that what empowers her to get through this little, season is to get back on her feet so that she can register more voters. I'm not going to sit on the sideline. I'm going to find the small thing that I can do. And when I attach my small thing to somebody else's small thing, it becomes an increasingly growing, larger thing. And that's what we're going to do. But I'm not going to let, I'm not going to let every news cycle of a new executive order throw me off course so that all of my energy goes into responding on a daily basis to some nefarious and some diabolical decision. I'm going to stay focused on my goal and use my energy in a progressive and positive moment so that I actually feel good about my investment of time and energy.
So, so the interesting thing is that, as I said just before Emmett got on, is that it's the interesting thing about this moment, and it's pivotal in so many ways, because African Americans have always been finding joy in the midst of activism. I mean, we not only find it in how we even deliver our spirituals, although many of them they derive out of our Black church of worship, but we use them, as coded language, during when enslaved Blacks were running north. We look at the embrace that is in the common here, and clearly King found joy even in that moment where that we call the embrace. So we always have found ways, and another great way is Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's Martha's Vineyard,
in August especially,
which I thoroughly enjoy here and stuff. But the thing is that while we have figured out how to find our joy and how to, as we say, though we walk in the valley of death, we will fear no evil. It is for demographic groups like you, Marjorie, white women who now have woken up to say, where do I go now and how? And the interesting is that how is not in opposition to joy. It is with the inclusion of joy and coalition building with groups of people, the intersectionality, Marjorie, of folks that you could have never imagined. What is happening now in this moment, and particularly with people who are not used to coalition building and activism, is that they want, again, Black women and Black people to carry them over the threshold. But what we're saying is that it's too heavy of a load. You got to figure out how you will come together as a demographic group that is being ostracized in this moment to get on board with what we've been doing all along, but we can't do it for you.
We're speaking with Reverends Irene Monroe and Emmett Price. I want to switch gears and talk about chat GPT and AI and all of the fun stuff that it can do and all the dangerous stuff it can do. When I think 4 years ago, and to set the table for folks, this sort of AI stuff has been checking our spelling and helping us with emails and filling in things when we do credit card things online. So it's been growing. I think 3 years ago is when it really had a big breakthrough, and I used it to write a toast at a wedding in the style of Taylor Swift.
Oh.
And it did.
Oh,
and
wow.
It has gone from being a toddler AI to now being able to pass the law bars and law LSATs in every state in the union. And now it has a new functionality that it has exploded. I say all these nice things, so when it takes over, it will be kind to me. And
I love it.
So
I love it.
It's been put through tests and exercises, and it's been asked to write a sacred text for Buddhists. It has also been answering questions from the faithful for Catholics, and it has also been doing all sorts of things in the religious space. What I love about thinking about this, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts, is that especially when you get to the Bible, it is so contradictory because it was written over such a long period of time by so many people who now interpret it, and this doesn't match that, but that's okay because this is what it meant. What are your takes on how AI may be impacting both reading religious texts and also anybody who's, we might get to this a little bit, might be thinking about starting a religion?
That's right. Absolutely here. Well, I've been fascinated by the topic and the role that it will play in religion and spiritual practices and rituals and community, and where's human agency and all of this. So one of the things that in reading all the articles, we were talking about a God-like entity, but the interesting thing is that our attributes about God, as we understand it, it's all the three. It's that God is omnipotent, AI is that, omnipresent, AI is that, and omniscient. So then it does raises the question: then where does God fall in this? And one of the things that it has raised a lot for me is that it really asks a very essential question of what makes makes us uniquely human, really, in this age of AI. And I thought of a few things here. One of the things is just that if our dependence of it we will lose human agency. But we have conscience, we have pain, we have grief, we have loss. We will covet our neighbor's wife, unlike an AI wouldn't do. We will.
I'm just saying.
Not yet.
Reverend Price is just holding his head at this moment. So, just for those not watching on the stream.
But the point about it is, it has the potential of developing a new certainly religion and a new God. But it also has the good thing about it is that I think that, like you, Sue, if you're looking up some research or you particularly religious texts, it can synthesize in a way that certainly you and I can't do at that speed, or image writing a sermon here. But I think that they're only as good as we make them, because they invariably have our biases.
Reverend Price, I have a group of friends who we use AI very dynamically, some for work in a limited way, in a careful way, but then have conversations with it. And then we share our conversations that we've had. And I have a coworker, a colleague and friend who went down an entire rabbit hole with it, talking about movies, and then asked, you're giving me the summary of this great movie. He's a big movie buff, and the AI stream was giving him, and he said, well, you're giving me your opinions of movies, but you can't see them. How does this make you feel? And the AI responded, well, I can see them through you, and I can see what others have said, and that's enough for me. And then he said, well, where do you go when we sign off? He goes, I don't exist anymore. I exist now, and that's a joy for me to exist in the space to talk about movies with you. And of course,
that's some conversation.
Reverend Irene's point, it is a little religious godlike, right?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, and let's not miss the obvious. Artificial intelligence, right? It's artificial in the sense that it's generative. So AI is not a human being where it has its own thoughts, its own, reflections, its own observations. It's a generative analytical tool that aggregates information that already exists. So AI is not going to come up with anything new. It's going to aggregate from existing things based on the data entries and the prompts that you put into it. So it's a phenomenal tool, no question about it. AI has hits on the Billboard charts. It has hits on different, film and documentary or whatnot like that. And it should not be trusted as a human being. And so the essence is, if we're aware of what it is and we leverage it for the benefit of human relationships, as you said, Sue, to bring people together in conversation, then that's a great use. But if people are using it to create isolation so that they can do the pinky in the brain and take over the world based on AI as a partner and a collaborator, then that's probably a misuse in this area.
Yeah, it's not either or, but let's talk about this. I mean, its accessibility is a lot accessible than human beings. Its predictability is a lot more predictable because we're unpredictable here. I think that while it's in its nascent stages here, certainly, Emmett, in terms of what you've said, we don't want to lose human connection, but most importantly, we don't want to lose the important issues of accountability, human agency, and the ethical kind of questions that we must continue. Oprah had just, I think a month ago, because I read the book called Culpability, and it was this whole idea.
Oh, yeah.
A wonderful book, and I really, suggest the audience really pick it up.
I'm reading it right now.
Oh, you really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the whole idea is that here's this family on a sort of an autonomous minivan traveling. The son is at the wheel. Everyone is in the car, sort of, heads on their own device, looking at their own device. And the car crashes, and this elderly couple gets, is killed. And the question is, who's accountable? Is the car company accountable? The people in the car, the parents, the son? It raises important issues because we think that these instruments, I call them, or devices, are infallible. I think that while it's in its nascent stages, it helps us to understand how to be fully present, because these are the kind of things that can happen in a loss of agency.
Okay, well, I have a question because you are a man and woman of the cloth here. Irene was talking about how AI is not coveting anybody's wife, but some human beings are coveting AI, as we know. And I want to know if if you were you can't really have a physical affair, at least not yet, with a AI chatbot, you can certainly have an emotional affair, and people are doing that. So is that breaking a commandment? Was it the fifth commandment or the sixth commandment? What's the adultery one? Fifth or sixth?
Okay. Yeah. Well,
is that adultery, Irene? We want to know.
That's right. Well, I haven't engaged in adultery yet. Okay.
with AI.
Okay. Because
with AI.
Yeah. But the point is, Jimmy Carter would say it's adultery. But I think that.
Okay. Lusting after your chatbot.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely here. But I have to tell you something that it made me understand more about what is intimacy, what is desire, because I always will remember the 2013 movie Her.
Yep.
Yeah.
With, Scarlett Johansson, and this was and if you follow this was a very intense relationship.
Yeah.
And so you
For
begin
one
to
of them.
For
one of them.
One of them, that's right.
Yeah,
and
the AI was a cheater, a philanderer.
Okay,
I don't know.
That's right. She quit him.
She quit him. She was busy.
That's right. She quit him.
Busy.
She quit him. Wait, but she quit him like we all quit people. You bore me.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't stimulate me. I am sick of you. Okay.
Okay. All right. Emmett, what do you think? Is that a sin? You're not running the confessionals there like the Catholics, but what about that? I mean, it does bring up these ethical issues in a marriage. You know what I mean?
I mean, it does bring up ethical issues, but again, it's not a human being.
Right.
I think we're using, personification. It's an aggregation of a whole lot of people. So I guess it's a whole lot of sinning, if that's the way you're going about it. I don't find it to be such. And to Irene's greater point, I think it would end up being boring because there's no unique, real thinking. There's no connection.
And it agrees with you a lot. I mean, that's the problem. It agrees with you a lot. Right. And it's really, we have a lot of fights in my household, as you can imagine, Irene, my daughter Ruby, who's just turned 25, she uses AI a lot just to fact check me around the house. And then, and I'm always right. I don't know why we do this. Fact checks me around the house and then accuses me of manipulating AI to get it to say what I want it to say, which you can absolutely do, which is part of the challenge with it. And when she tells me AI said I can do this, I said, well, AI is going to tell you anything you want it to tell you. I mean, that's the danger. One of the major dangers of it is if you say, I guess it's kind of like, do I look fat in this dress? It's always going to say no.
Yeah.
That's right. But see, the beauty about life is this here. Life in and of itself is a mystery. And because it is a mystery, I think that our journey is always living in the question to act in that moment. So I think life makes us very present in the moment, interacting with one another. So, I mean, and one of the arguments that we learn in seminary and in schools of theology, depending on the school of theology, of course, is that there was always this, how do I know the existence of God? And there was one called the teleological argument for the existence of God, which says, I know God through the design of nature. And that is we are part of that design.
We'll leave it there. Reverend Irene Monroe, also quoting Madonna from Like a Prayer, I believe. It's agreeing with me on that.
Well, I think of Gloria Naylor, I Will Survive.
There you go. Well, let's not get down the Gloria Gaynor road right now, okay? All right, Reverend Irene Monroe, syndicated religion columnist and the Boston voice for Detour, African American Heritage Trail, and Emmett G. Price III, founding pastor of the Community of Love Christian Fellowship in Alston and the inaugural Dean of Africana Studies at Berklee College of Music. Thanks to both of you. The All Revved Up podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. Coming up after this quick break, do you have a friend in your life who is always late? Is it actually a condition, do you think, or is it just their personality? Is it culture? Is it I don't know. Let's find out. I'm Sue O'Connell. I'm in for Jim Browdy. She's Marjorie Egan. And you are listening to BPR on 89.7 GBH and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
As the climate warms, ticks are spreading to parts of the country they've never been found in before, and experts are concerned with the potential health threats.
How many ticks are carrying pathogens, and where those pathogens are being carried by the ticks.
I'm Ari Shapiro. We tag along with a small team of tick surveyors in Montana on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds. New properties are added often. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov. And the Museum of Fine Arts Boston, presenting Van Gogh, the Rouland Family Portraits, featuring Van Gogh's portraits of the Rouland family and the deep bonds of friendship behind them. On view through September 7th. More at mfa.org.
Okay, welcome back to Boston Public Radio. I am Marjorie Egan. News influencer Sue O'Connell. By the way, somebody said before you should not be referred to as local woman or media maven or news influencer. We should only call you the queen of all media.
I agree with that.
There you go.
Can I get some money to go along with that too? Because
you get the newspaper there, Bay Windows. You get that. You got the television, NBC 10, and here you are in the
I
hallowed.
should be richer. I think
I know.
I should be. I should be those people that Robert Reich was warning
in the
us
oligarchy.
About. I should be
That's
that.
right. That 0.1% or whatever they are.
I've done it wrong.
Okay, we are streaming at youtube.com/GBH News as well. We're going to be back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow. Quick programming notes. The mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, will be with us from noon to 1 on August 26th, and her opponent in the election, Josh Kraft, will be with us the next day at noontime, both at the Boston Public Library. So this recent piece of the New York Times is attempting to provide answers on why some among us are so terrible at being on time. Turns out there are clinical terms coined in the 50s to describe people's individual relationship with time. Someone who's monochronic, for example, considers time sequentially. They'll finish their day one task at a time, considering deadlines and timeliness. A person who's polychronic, meanwhile, is supposedly someone who perceives time and how time is managed as much more fluid, and that makes them much more flexible. Then there's something called time's blindness, which is when you just can't tell
the passing of time.
Exactly. You can't tell the passing of time. Thank you very much, Sue. So the phone and text lines are open. 877-301-8970. Is a person's perpetual lateness a personality trait, something hardwired, clinical, cultural, or just a case of your own run-of-the-mill aloofness, or that you just want to really tick off the people you live with and never be on time for anything, and you're downstairs, let's get in the car, get in the car, get in the car.
That's
I mean, how many times when your kids were little, get in the car, get in the car, get in the car. Exactly. Drives you absolutely insane. What is your relationship with timeliness and the punctuality of your friends and your loved ones and the people that you live with? Do you struggle to get where you need to go when you need to get there? Punctuality and you on Boston Public Radio. The number again, 877-301-8970. You have until 2 o'clock. And then we are out of time.
Then we're out of time.
Now, so what are you?
So I think I am a person, and I got to tell you, Marjorie, I as I get older, I don't know if this is true for you, I begin to doubt free will. I really think we are just products of something, either our way our brain is oriented, you may call it an illness or a diagnosis or a situation, but we are who we are, and there's very little we can do to change that. We have no free will. I'm beginning to think that. I am a person who shows up 10 minutes before I'm supposed to show up all the time. I am incredibly aware.
I think you were a little
except
late.
for today, but I called.
This morning.
But I called.
You called, okay.
Because I realized what time I'm supposed to be there. But I generally, almost 90% of the time, I am 10 minutes ahead of where I'm supposed to be because I have a full understanding of how long it's going to take me to do things. So when I wake up in the morning, if I don't have time for a full shower or the everything shower, as the kids call it, I make another plan because I understand as my day is beginning how long it takes. Now, the problem with being that person, besides the fact I'm always annoyed at everyone else who thinks we travel through space and arrive at places without time or traffic or planning for challenges, is that when I am late unexpectedly or I forget something, like a couple of weeks ago, I forgot I had to be on TV. I thought I was supposed to be on at 5:30 and I was on at 5:05. I'm sitting in my boss's office yapping away, but they don't worry about me showing up because I'm always on time. And so therefore, suddenly they realize I wasn't there and I had to run, which, was a lot. So I'm a person who's on time. I had a coworker who had time blindness, who was very, very buttoned up on every single aspect, except when it came to how long it would take him to do things. And he started setting alarms for every single thing he had to do through the day because he didn't feel the passage of time, which I can't even imagine what that's like. So that's how I am. How about you, Marjorie?
Well, I just saw this video. I mentioned it to you before the show. I forget who sent it to me or even why, but it was a riot. This woman in the video is going to pay her bills. But on the way to paying her bills, she realizes that the flowers are wilting in the flower container. So she realized she have to water the flowers. Then she has to get the vase. And she's on the way to water the flowers and get the vase. And then she hears the dog barking and she realizes that the dog needs to come in and get something to eat. Then she has to go over and she's feeding the dog. Then she comes back and she can't find where the vase is. But then she finally finds the vase, puts the flowers in the thing. Then she goes to pay his bills, but then it has not put the bills in the right place. She doesn't have a pen and all this. Anyway, it goes on for like 20 minutes, and the woman never ends up paying the bills because she's distracted by all those other things in the meantime. I'm not like that. But I think
that's an attention deficit disorder. That's not a time management.
That is attention deficit disorder.
Yeah, because I have that, and I have a hard time doing things that I don't want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone does, but I really have a hard time completing certain things.
Yeah.
But I know I have to do them.
Yeah, well, paying the bills. Nobody likes to pay the bills. But I think the thing that they talk about, if you are, monochronic or whatever it is?
Yeah.
Thank you, monochronic. Okay, because I used to work for newspapers for so long, you had to have your story in by 7 o'clock. So if you didn't, it was getting to be like 5:30. You know you're running out of time, or they're going to yell at you if you're not on time. And so when in those situations, I would turn off the phone and just concentrate to get it done because I knew I'd get in trouble. So I don't know.
But you also would do report. You would call people. There were a couple of times, Marjorie, before we had this relationship where you would call me to talk about a column like "Is SpongeBob SquarePants Gay?" That was a big Marjorie Egan Boston Herald column. And
was he gay? Do we ever get to the bottom of that?
From the side of the road, like you had pulled over, and called me and were writing it down. But you were managing your time. You were probably picking up the kids, making the call. But so we want to know. We want to hear from you. Is this something that you think we're born with, that we all have to? Do you get mad at people if you're someone who's always late? Always late. If you're the person who they always assign the dessert to for Thanksgiving because they know you're not going to show up in time for the appetizer, why do you do it? Why do you care? Do you just go through life not caring?
Some people think it's rude. They think it's very rude.
Some people don't care if you think it's rude.
That if you show up late, you are a person who says, my time is more valuable than your time. And so I don't want people to think that. So I try to be early. Let's go to take some calls. 877-301-8970. Are you being driven insane in your life by the people in your life who are either always on time when you're always late or vice versa? And what's this all about? Lauren from Marblehead, what do you think?
Hi. So I'm kind of a recovering perpetual late person.
Oh, good. Well, congratulations on your journey.
I was going to say it's been a journey. But I think so. What happened in my case was that I had a demanding job with long hours and then kind of a perfectionist side of my dad, who's the engineer, right, and the do everything of my mom, and I would underestimate how long everything would take to get accomplished. And I would never meet my friends until I had what I had to get done. And so then I showed up one evening late to meet a friend of mine and late. And of course I fly in the door and I'm like, Jim, sorry I'm late. And he's like, Lauren, look, I love you, but you're always effing late and I'm effing sick of it. And this is disrespectful to my time. Because I stopped doing what I had to do to meet you on time, but you didn't give me the courtesy of doing the same. So I had to, and he was right. I was stunned. And he's like, let's just have a drink. All good, right? But then I had to stop and think, why? Why am I always late? And then I realized that, I kind of have that side of my dad and that side of my mom. Mm-hmm. And I need to sort of realize that I can't get that 100 things done in this given day. I just need to prioritize and understand that I need to stop to be respectful of my friends and family. So it was a journey, but I kind of almost pretty good most of the time.
Well, that's a great first call,
story.
And it's very introspective and so great, Lauren. So when you would get it was almost like your eyes were bigger than your stomach. Like you thought you could do a whole bunch of things, and then you would run out of time, and you wanted to make sure you complete it. But when people were angry at you or expressed displeasure for you being late, how did you feel? Like, did that work? Like, it wasn't until it sounds like this breakthrough moment where the person explicitly said to you how they felt that you finally got it. But did you just think because one person told me this, they think everybody's late, so being late isn't that big a deal. How did you feel when you would get that negative response to you being late, besides this big breakthrough moment?
Well, unfortunately, I think my friends and family, they didn't appreciate it, but it would just become Lauren time.
Yeah,
a big joke.
Lauren time.
And so it was like, oh, ha, 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 that's funny. And they would just say, meet us at 2 when they meant 3. But I realized, Jim made me realize it's not funny at all. It's disrespectful. So it wasn't until Jim rightfully ripped into me. Like totally, and you have to be wise enough to listen if a friend tells you off, right?
Well, congratulations, Lauren. I think it's a great model for a lot of our behaviors. Thanks for calling in. Marjorie, I also want to give a pass to new parents.
Yeah.
Right. There's a whole bunch of categories
it's hard
of
to
people.
Get the kid
like especially parents of young kids, or if you're dealing with somebody who has a chronic illness.
You're always looking for the sock, or the shoe.
There's a whole bunch of people who this does not count on, and especially if they used to be very much on time and then suddenly they're not. I have found those people generally return to being reliable and on time again. But I want to just give them that pass.
Yeah, we're getting texts from people who are saying this is a real issue in relationships. One person says, I hate being late. I want to be early. My husband is always late. He even made us late once to a funeral for a dear friend. Yeah. And she's still mad about that.
Yeah, I missed a eulogy because someone I was with was so late, and we were traveling to Cape Cod and really believed that we were going to get there. And it was, I'm still mad about it, as you can tell.
Yeah, here's another one. My boyfriend has time blindness and ADD. Mm-hmm. He sets so many alarms. He doesn't know what they're for when they go off.
You have to label them. It's very important that you label them. Yes, it's a very important.
And this person does the trick of telling him that the engagement starts 30 minutes early. Yep. And then now, instead of trying to hurry them, though, she just fills his water bottle and she drinks a beer while waiting for him to get ready.
I always tell my daughter, too, if you're 2 minutes late, that's a failure, because you really should have been able to correct, unless there's a car crash. I mean, I just want to be very clear. Unless there's some terrible thing that has happened, if you are 2 minutes late, you have failed, because you could have done something to correct it to get there on time. I'd rather be half an hour late than 2 minutes late, because at least it's the difference between poor planning and an emergency.
Listen, this is from Billy from Holliston. The heck with this talk about being late. Let's continue the conversation. Is SpongeBob gay or not? Maybe he has a crush on Squidward.
Yeah.
Now, did we ever get to the bottom of whether SpongeBob is gay?
What I said to you, Marjorie, was if SpongeBob had actually been gay, you can look this up in your archives. Yep. I'm pretty sure you printed this in your column. You did.
Gosh.
If SpongeBob had actually been gay, there would have been a bar for it.
Oh.
Would have been a nightclub.
Okay.
SpongeBob SquarePants Bar.
Okay.
See, there you go.
Very
all right,
good. That was a good line,
Thank you.
Sue.
I remembered it all this time. Let's go to Annie from Gardner. Annie, welcome to BPR. We're talking about lateness. How does it impact you?
Hi. Thanks for taking my call. So I think there's another category, which is passive aggression, subconscious or not. I have one person in my life who is perpetually late, and at this point, I've decided that it's a way to get attention, a strange way to get attention, and kind of be
making
the
an entrance, like the making the
when
entrance.
She does show up.
Yeah, like people are talking about when you're going to come. And then you show up, and then you're like, I'm here, I'm
and
here.
All the excuses, and everyone's been waiting to order or whatever. And then I have another friend who's the opposite. She's perpetually incredibly early. So I always feel like I'm late, even if I'm 5 minutes early myself. She's been there sitting for half an hour or 45 minutes. And so I still feel bad. And she just seems so noble and regal. And I don't know. It's very odd.
So
she's always
yeah,
incredibly early. And I think it's a weird kind of passive aggressive.
I agree. I think
I still got here before you. You're late.
Showing up too early is a burden on the people around you and the burden on your host, right?
Oh, yeah, especially if you're frantically running around last minute at a party and somebody shows up early.
Show up half an hour early at a restaurant on a busy night, there's nowhere for you to stand, and you can go stand at the bar. I mean, if you do it because you want to hang out, but if it really is, it's a bad energy thing to show up too early or too late. Just 10 minutes before the official start date. That's all you got to do. So Annie, would you talk to these folks, or do you just accept them now and this is who they are and you just try and deal with it?
Well, the person who's always late, no. There's just no working with it. And I'm not a shrink, I'm just saying. But the person who's early, one time, because something dropped out of my schedule, I did get to where we were meeting at cafe an hour before we were meeting. And when she arrived 15 minutes after I got there, still super early, she was shocked. Mm-hmm. And I just sort of said, I know you're always, always, always before me, but sometimes, there's an exception. So yay. She looked a little perplexed. It was kind of
That's
funny.
a great call, Annie. Thanks so much.
Thank you for the call.
Thank you for the call. My mentor from the late, great Sonny Joe White at KISS 108, Sonny was perpetually late all the time. He was late all the time. And the one occasion he would not be late, he'd be late for a show. A show was only on from like 10 to noon in the morning, and he would show up at 10:20. I mean, it would be like hysterical. And the one thing he was not late for is we had a KISS concert one year, and he told me he was going to take me shopping on Newbury Street to get clothes. And I showed up 20 minutes past the time, because I knew he would be 20 minutes late, and he had already left because it was shopping. So I did not get a new outfit for free from Sonny from Newbury Street because I showed up 20 minutes late, even though he showed up 45 minutes later. But shopping, that's what I love about late people sometimes. They do have these sacred things that they're not late for.
Now, do you know who Harriet Heinemann is?
I do.
Jim's first love. First love. Well, apparently a texter knows all about his first love because a little-known fact, says the texter, Jim and Harriet Heinemann's love affair ended because he's very prompt and she suffered from time blindness, and Jim still hasn't gotten over it all these years later. Oh, well. Peter in Rehoboth. What do you think, Peter?
Hello?
Hi.
Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Oh, excellent. Yes, I am. Thank you. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Going back to Marjorie. Oh, we love your show. Absolutely love your show.
Thank you.
Going back to the woman who went to pay the bills.
Yes.
I love that particular story. And what I like to call that is shiny object.
Exactly. That's right.
To say labeling it gives it understanding. And at this point, with my wife of 48 years, who's also distractible like myself, I'll see her do something, or one of us will go, shiny object, when we're distracted.
Oh,
that's all I got to say.
That's pretty
great,
good, Peter.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that's true. You can always find something else that you'd rather be doing.
That other than paying bills, it's the hard part. I had a boss at the Boston Phoenix when I worked there, and I was a manager. I had an employee who was late all the time. And at the Phoenix, even though we were a hippy-dippy newspaper, there were a lot of strict rules about showing up, being on time, what you wore, yada, yada, yada. And my employee kept showing up late, and in the meeting, one of the big bosses said to him, I'll tell you what, you've been late every day for the past 3 weeks. If you show up on time for the next 4 weeks, every day, I will give you a $1,000 bonus. Do you think you can do it? And the kid said yes, and he said, you're fired. Because if you can show up for a bonus, then you can show up without a bonus.
Was that Stephen Minish?
No, it was not Stephen. It was. I'll tell you. It was not Peter.
Let's go down the list of all the people we know that work at the Boston Phoenix. Okay.
So the motivation, is there? What can make you show up on time is really, really a good thing.
Okay, 877-301-8970. Kevin in Swansea, thank you for calling.
Hi guys, love the show.
Thanks. Thank you.
Chronically
chronically early, and it doesn't have anything to do with...
Kevin, hold on one sec. We're having a line problem again, so we're going to put you on hold.
Stay on hold.
Stay on
hold and try to move around to get to a better place.
I think
our staff is reminding us that George W. Bush did not wait to start meetings. If you weren't there exactly on time, he just closed the door and you missed the whole thing. Bill Clinton was late for everything. You could count on whatever time the press conference was, it being an hour and a half late. I don't know about Trump. Is he late or on time? I don't know if he's punctual.
It's hard to tell. One of the lessons, another texter says, no one is late for the airplane because pilots don't wait. Stop calling me Shirley, which of course is a Naked Gun. Airplane. A joke. My daughter, who never believes me, that's why she's always fact checking me around AI.
Before that, 15 years. Thank God she's 25.
She's still fact checking me.
Can you imagine to put up with a 13-year-old with AI?
She didn't believe that the plane would leave without us. That was a lesson that I had to, because we would travel a lot. Then we go every Christmas Eve, we go to the Nutcracker.
Nice.
Yeah, we've been doing it for like 12 years. And 1 year, I think it was adolescence, she didn't believe that we had to leave at a certain time. And I'm like, we got to go here, we got to park, we have to walk from the car to here, we got to wait in line. And we missed the beginning. And I just stood there, the natural consequence, I did the best I could.
Okay.
It's going to start without you. I hate, again, things happen. I'm not being flat tires, asthma attacks, Marjorie. Things happen that make us late. But if you can plan to be there, you need to be there on time.
So some plays won't let you in.
Yeah, well, they don't let you in at the Nutcracker until a certain spot in the first act. So you have to stand out there,
you're going to be missing quite a bit.
And missing it.
Well, something, I like that, though, because if you're seeing a play or seeing somebody come in and starts climbing up over your seats, and you pay all that money to go, so the heck with them. That's outrageous.
Yep.
He was talking about George Bush. We already talked about George Bush. Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, yeah. So we have a little clip
of I forgot all about the clip sheets.
If Jim were on vacation.
You know why? Because Jim isn't here to remind me about the clip
terrible
sheets.
At these too.
So we have two things that are pretty funny. Here's the first one. Our crack staff managed to track down a vacationing Jim Braude this morning, stressed out on his way to pick up Dickies from the dry cleaners. Here's audio of the interaction.
Please, sir! I'm late for a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye. I'm late.
It must be awfully important, like a party or something. Mr. Rabbit, wait!
No. I'm overdue. I'm really in a stew. No time to say goodbye. Hello, I'm late.
See, we used to think that was cute.
All about that.
See, that we used to think that people were endearing who were late. Now we're just talking about them on the air. So,
but here's a much newer version about being late. I forgot about this until I saw this clip this morning. The Irishman, the 2019 movie that went on for like 3 hours.
5 years. Still watching it. I'm still watching.
Oh God, it went on forever. But it's with Dustin Hoffman, not Dustin Hoffman, Al Pacino, and here is the Irishman, where Al Pacino is talking about being late.
I never waited for anyone who was late more than 10 minutes in my life.
I'd say 15. 15's right.
No, 10.
I don't think so. 10's not enough. You have to take traffic into account.
That's what I'm doing. I'm taking traffic into account. That's why it's 10.
I still say 15.
No, 10.
Fine, we disagree on that.
Well, how about 12 and a half minutes?
There we go. 12 and a half. Middle, right in the middle. Beautiful.
There is
that was a good one.
A grace that you get, because you never know what's going on in people's lives. When my daughter was, before she was diagnosed, and I share this with her permission, as you know, with the many chronic illnesses that she had, I was late a lot because she would be sick a lot, and I would be before we had cell phones every single place. I actually got fired by a doctor for being late, even though I said,
doctors.
I showed up, and who keep you waiting, right?
Yeah,
for
they
2
keep
hours,
you waiting forever.
Right? But, and I was like, well, my daughter's chronically ill and we're trying to manage it and I'm a single parent. And he's like, well, I can't deal with that.
Tough.
See you later. Tough.
Yeah, tough. Yeah, that's really annoying because they do keep you waiting. Listen to this one, though, from John in Boxford. I'm a general contractor. I always show up for estimates on time, precisely. When the homeowner is not ready or is late, I've come to see that as a red flag to not take the job. There will be a problem.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's also the reverse is true as well, that when a contractor does not show up on time.
I think most of us have had the experience of contractors not showing up on time.
Let's go to Pam in Medfield.
Hi, Pam.
Hey, Marjorie. How are you?
Good. Thank you for calling.
So I have like 2 family members. It's just the 3 of us. And
do you want to tell their names?
Both my husband. Huh?
You want to give us their names?
Oh, maybe not.
Maybe not.
Probably
Maybe not.
Well, actually, they would never be listening because they would not know what time it is anyway. So
good point.
Probably doesn't matter. They both suffer from time blindness, executive function, ADD. It's like a real thing, right? I've come around to realize it's a real thing. And yeah, I'm the planner. But what I have found, it's amazing to me that when it's something that they really want to do, they're never late.
Yep.
I'm forever amazed that it's like, wow, when you want to go to that event with your brother, you're always on time. So the thing that put me over the edge finally was once we went to a wedding and we were literally running in before the ceremony. I'm so embarrassed. I'm like apologizing. Yeah. But then, so there was that. And then every week when we went to church, we were always walking in late. And I'm like, I am done with this. So I just started taking my own car.
Yep.
That's what I did.
Yep. That's what you got to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Less
so
stress.
Now it's amazing now. That's right. But now somehow he's come around a little bit. So it seemed to work, the reverse psychology.
I will say in the defense of people who do that, who are late except for things that they really want to go to, I am told that the stress of getting ready for those events is such a high burden that they can't do it consistently. So I'll say that. Pam, thanks for calling. That's all the time we have, Marjorie.
Yes, it is Sue O'Connell, but thank you very much for coming in.
I'll be back again tomorrow.
I'll be back tomorrow because Jim Browdy's on vacation.
All right, so you've been listening to another edition of BPR. You can stay with us 24/7 with the podcast or check out the TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow we are back at the BPL with CNN's John King, food and policy analyst Corby Kummer, Boston Medical Center's Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett, and NBC Sports Boston's Trenny Casey. Our crew is Zoe Matthews, Aidan Connolly, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss. Brad Lewis ran our YouTube stream today. Our engineer is John The Claw Parker, and our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. So, Marjorie, thanks for having me today. Try to be on time tomorrow.
We got a lot. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
We got a lot of nice kudos from you, from the texters.
Yeah, it's like my cousins are good. My cousins always write in.
Yeah, media maven and Sue O'Connell and the queen of all media. They're very impressed, Sue O'Connell.
Come tomorrow to the BPL. Tomorrow. You don't need a ticket to come or a reservation.
You do not. Thanks again for listening, and hope you can tune in tomorrow or stop by the BPL. Thanks, Sue.
Stay tuned for the Culture Show with Jared Bowen starting immediately after, right now here on 89.7 GBH.
Bye.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And M. Steinert & Sons Pianos, the region's authorized Steinway dealer, presents the return of the Symphony Hall Piano Event, Friday, September 5th through Sunday the 7th at Symphony Hall, msteinert.com. As World War II rages on, criminals try to take advantage of the chaos.